My name is Alejandro Serrano, and I am here representing the Dade County affiliate of CCDF, County Citizens Defending Freedom, pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order number 21-175, ensuring parents' freedom to choose regarding masks in school. I hereby demand that all pertinent parties, including the superintendent and every member of this school board, immediately comply with the following directives which are set forth in the executive order as they pertain to this agenda item. Do not, under any circumstance, violate Floridians' constitutional freedoms. Do not violate parents' right under Florida law to make health care decisions for their minor children. Protect children with disabilities or health conditions who would be harmed by certain protocols such as face masking requirements. Superintendent Carvalho and all school board members are hereby put on notice that should they fail to comply with these directives, they will be in direct violation of the executive order and in effect will be in direct violation of Article 4, Section 1A of the Florida Constitution. Moreover, should Superintendent Carvalho and these board members vote in favor of or implement policy that in any way violates Florida state law as it pertains to HB 241, Parents' Bill of Rights, or the SBOE's Emergency Rule 6AE421-01, as well as DOH's Emergency Rule 64DER21-12, these violations will make you liable to legal and punitive action by pertinent state Florida government agencies and will also open you up to litigation from CCDF and from any Miami-Dade County parents that will join us as we pursue justice for these violations. I will close by stating that the superintendent and these school board members do not have jurisdiction, authority, or dominion over the will of the parents or students of Miami-Dade County. We do not consent the surrender of any of our inborn freedoms in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Applauding is not permitted. So you would like to agree or not with an item, would you please raise your hands? And applauding is out. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Christian Grenwald? Robin McCarthy? Eric Honeyman? Sari Cabrera? Francela Guido Chacon? Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Francela Guido Chacon. I have some copies, please, to pass out. Thank you.
Could you speak a little bit louder, please?
Yes.
Or the mic? Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today, and I want to start off by thanking Mr. Carvalho and the experts on the task force that unanimously recommended mask mandate for the start of school. I am here before you in place of thousands of parents whom cannot be here in person. Due to their own medical conditions, vulnerabilities, disabilities, they cannot take this risk. I started a petition because I knew there were thousands of parents sharing the same concerns and in favor of mask mandates. I have a petition here, copies for you all, so you can see that we have over 11,000 signatures thus far. And we, the parents in favor of mask mandate, are the majority on this matter. Like the doctors told us and forewarned us, it only will take one child infected, unmasked in the classroom to spread it to all the other children. And with odds like this, we recommend, strongly recommend, no opt-out provisions. We do not want the start of school in Dade County to become a super spreader like we are seeing throughout Florida. We need a temporary virtual option like we had last year, the MSO. This will bridge the gap between now and when vaccines become available for students under age 12. Parents will prefer this option because vulnerable students can stay at home, log in, and vulnerable teachers can teach from home. With temporary virtual MSO, we can provide better and space distancing in classrooms. As a proud product of Miami-Dade magnet programs, we feel trapped that we have to unenroll in magnet programs for virtual for the whole year, not allowing us to return to magnet.
Miss, your time is up, but I'll
Thank
let
you very
wrap it up.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael Haley? Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Haley. I reside at 7703 Southwest 178th Street, Palmetto Bay, in District 8. I want to thank the school board for the opportunity to address agenda item H17. As a grandparent of students myself at Sunset Elementary in Carver, I respectfully urge the board to immediately take action on, 1, vote in favor of masks for students and all staff to mitigate the spread of highly contagious COVID Delta, addressing point number 1 on this agenda item. 2, reinstate your previously successful program of remote learning called MSO or My School Online. You did it before, the kids were safe, and it was a very successful effort, and my thanks to you there. The reasons are becoming clear. Delta COVID is a clear and present danger. The war has changed. Florida now has the highest rate of pediatric COVID cases in the nation, from 205 spiking to 1,544 over 7-day rolling averages in the month of June and late July. That's a 700% increase. This morning, reading the Miami Herald, Memorial Health and Joe DiMaggio cases are reported to have risen nearly 1,000% over the same period. This is before kids are even sent back to the classroom without masks and without vaccinations. Having unvaccinated kids go to school is playing with fire. Broward County has just made a decision of their school board to have masks mandatory for all staff and all teachers for the maximum protection of those in the classroom. Masks need to be a frontline, a defense requirement, and we urge you to make that a vote. Secondly, okay, I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We are honored to have State Senator Annette Tadeo with us this afternoon, and she's one of our speakers. Would you like to speak, Senator? Good afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. Thank you so much. I'm Senator Annette Tadeo from District 40 in Miami, Florida. And I'm here as a senator of this community, but I'm also here as a mom. And I'm here to tell you that I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you because I know you're going to make the right decision. You have an excellent superintendent who just added an incentive with your item, ma'am, to have people vaccinated, our employees, for this wonderful school county that we have. I have a daughter in public schools, and as a mom, I'm very scared, and I know I'm not alone. I know when we all put our hand up to swear to represent the community that elected us, we do it to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and of the state of Florida. And it's very clear in our Constitution who we respond to, and it's that Constitution. It's not our party, it's not our governor. It is our Constitution. So I ask you to uphold our Constitution, where it says that kids have a right to a healthy environment when they go to school. And that's all we're asking for. You know, we have laws for not drinking and driving. Imagine if now people could just say to an officer, well, I have freedom to drink and drive. I have freedom to not put a seatbelt on my kid. I have freedom to not put them in a seat if they're babies. This is crazy. We have laws and rules for a reason. Let's use them to protect our kids. And I am here to say that I know you will make the right decision. And we, not everyone in Tallahassee, but I know many of us will be behind you. And more importantly, the parents will be behind you, because those are the people who voted you in. Those are the people who are going to support you and the teachers as we do the right thing for our community. Just like the superintendent says so often, by gosh, we wouldn't tell Dixie County what to do. Well, we are different sometimes in Miami-Dade, but we know what's right for our community. That's why we elect a local board. We elect you to make decisions, not Tallahassee to make them for us. Thank you for what you do. I know you will do the right thing and protect our kids with masks. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Barbara Haley? Ms. Haley here? Yes. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, School Board, Mr. Superintendent, for allowing me to speak today. I'm speaking today on behalf of over 1,000 parents that also have children in the Miami-Dade public school system. We're being faced with a very difficult decision of protecting the health of our children or sending them into school to keep their place in their magnet or school of choice program. We are demanding that the school board reinstate My School Online MSO remote teaching immediately. It is imperative that this be offered again to help with the social distancing in the schools, to avoid shutting the schools down again. Let me repeat, to avoid shutting the schools down again, and offer a continuation in education for children that are being quarantined. This needs to be offered at least until children under 12 have the option to be vaccinated. Parents need to have options. Whether they choose to send their kids to school or keep them at home, the technology is available already. Forcing our children to unenroll from the school of choice as well as magnet schools would mean children losing their specialized education. Their choice ends here. Additionally, our children need a continuation with their school classmates and teachers to ensure their mental well-being and a smooth transition when returning to in-person school. Once again, the continuation of the remote MSO option for 2021-2022 school year would be a win-win for all students. It will mean a safer environment for everybody with the possibility of real social distancing. I implore you to do the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lisa Conrad? Is Ms. Conrad here? Aaron Buslon? Bridget Albello? Ibis Valdez? Yes. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon. So, hello, board members. My name is Ibis Valdez. I am a concerned citizen and also a candidate for Miami-Dade County Commission, District 6. I will make this brief, being respectful of the parents and educators whose voices I simply wish to amplify. We're all here because of an unprecedented worldwide pandemic which continues to rage out of our control. The only things in our control are the tools that we have, primarily being the miracle of multiple vaccines, which if more adults would step up and roll their sleeves, we would not be discussing having our kids in the line of fire. And secondly, this simple piece of cloth or filter material, which is a medical device that saves lives. Why it has been politicized and demonized is simply beyond comprehension. This is an opportunity to protect our home rule, because Tallahassee should not be deciding what we do here in Miami with such a delicate matter. We are born with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in that order. We want to get back to be free from this pandemic, but we cannot if we do not preserve lives first. Thank you for considering my comments.
Thank you. Patty Greenberg? Is Greenberg here? Ethan Greenberg? Gerald Greenberg? Valentina Capriles, Maribel Balbin, Jimena Hills, Megan Goycuria, Kelly Sheehan, Carla Hernandez Matz,
Good afternoon once again. Carla Hernandez Matz, President of the United Teachers of Dade. I am here to implore all of you to follow the CDC guidelines, to follow what the pediatrics, the Academy of Pediatrics has said, and also what your medical experts on your task force have recommended. We saw the meeting that took place on Monday. We saw that all of the experts in medicine have stated that masks should be mandated because they are a mitigation factor in the safety and protection of not only children, but all of the faculty and staff that take care of children every single day. I know that when you were elected, you didn't think you'd be doing this work during a pandemic, but nevertheless, here we are. And right now, we need leaders. We need people that are going to care about the well-being of our children and not put politics into this discussion. This is not about polarizing our communities. This is not about taking to threats that are being, thrown out day in and day out. And as a matter of fact, I remember Dr. Gallen one time said, we do not do well to threats, and we don't. And so Dr. Gallen and to everybody here, I ask you that you amend this item, H17, because H17, as it stands, allows for options. And I do not believe that this is something that should be optional. Masks should be mandatory. Safety should be our priority because we have our due diligence. We have to do the due diligence of taking care of our children and educating them. I'll leave it like this. When we do fire drills, there is no opt-out. When we have code reds and we have to take cover for bullets that are coming into our schools, there is no opt-out. This is not a drill. We are in a pandemic right now. There is no opt-out. I care about my children, about everybody else's children, and I care about the safety for this community. So I ask you, please amend H17 and make masks mandatory. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Antonio White.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Superintendent, members of the board. I am Antonio White, the first Vice President of the United Teachers of Dade, and I stand before you today understanding the importance and the need of this item. However, the last concept in recommend number 2 brings me reservations of support of this item in its current form. After watching the ad hoc medical and public health experts task force meeting on Tuesday, the ones that this district uses for guidance on the mitigation strategies needed to keep students and employees safe, it was very apparent that mask mandates should not be optional, but mandatory. Science and medical experts have spoken. We in the Miami-Dade community sincerely hope those of you charged with the safety and well-being of nearly 500,000 students, employees, and families follow these recommendations over the political rhetoric attempting to influence the decisions you make here today. Dwight D. Eisenhower once said, "You don't lead by hitting people over the head. That's called assault, not leadership." Yet, that is exactly the predicament this board finds itself in based on the threats from the governor's office and the Department of Education. The Florida Constitution gives the authority and the responsibility of ensuring our schools are safe and secure as possible to locally elected school boards. We as a community are relying on you not to abdicate that responsibility. If we believe our eyes, our ears, and those we consider to be experts, then we must acknowledge that the conditions surrounding this pandemic are worse today than they were at the onset over a year and a half ago. In a democracy, we all have rights. However, no one's individual rights trump the rights of the masses, especially during a public health crisis. Just because you may be a smoker, you can't simply light up inside a restaurant because medical experts have determined that secondhand smoke poses a health risk to others who wish to dine there. There is no different than mask mandates meant to keep our education community as safe and secure as possible. In closing, I'll leave you with a quote from John F. Kennedy. There are risks and costs to a program of action, but there are far less than the long-range risk and cost of comfortable inaction. Let's be on the right side of this mask mandate debate because the children we serve and the communities they live in are solely counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mindy Grimes Fetch.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair,
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Vice Chair, board members, Mr. Superintendent. This item, H17, is about whether this board is going to take a position based on the input and recommendations of the actual medical experts to protect children and employees in our schools, or bow to the political extortion from the governor and the commissioner of education in Tallahassee. It really is that simple. The CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics agree on the most contentious issue, which is the wearing of masks by everyone in a school. The medical professionals appointed by each of you on this very board unanimously concur with the CDC recommendations and the American Academy of Pediatrics. The message was clear. Universal indoor masking needs to be required, and in no way is it harmful to children. Physical spacing needs to be maximized, not just when feasible. Cleaning and hygiene need to be enhanced. Vaccinations should be encouraged for everyone who is eligible. In addition to the clear message of the medical professionals, I also want to comment on their passion and what I believe is frustration. The medical community has been very clear and remains very clear about the things that must be done to mitigate the spreading of this pandemic. They want to save lives. They are on the front lines seeing the full impact of COVID-19 on both children and adults every single day. They volunteer their time to advise us about what we need to do to protect ourselves and each other. And they sound frustrated that decision makers ignore that expert advice. I side with the medical professionals in this dispute and ask you to do the same. Our actions, our choices during this pandemic impact us personally, but they also impact every single person we come in contact with. We all want to return to normal as fast as possible. I just refuse to accept that normal includes students and teachers getting sick and possibly dying due to the callous disregard of others, and I implore you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Plyler. Carlos Leon. Araceli Martinez.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Araceli Martinez. Westminster, Florida Christian, Doral Academy Prep Charter, KLC Academy, Somerset Silver Palms, Ben Gomez Charter School, True North Charter, High Point Academy, Academy Europe Charter, Pinecrest Cove Academy. Those are some of the schools in our county allowing a mask optional policy for their staff and their students. Florida Christian School had an increase of 100 new students for this school year. They had to hire more staff and open up more classrooms. They are only one of the 729 schools accepting the Hope Scholarship. What are you creating with your mandate policies and exodus of students and teachers? Just last week, I helped 4 of my county teachers' friends get a job in 2 charter schools. Before the school year is over, you will have unemployed teachers due to low enrollment and closed schools. Just chime into the Facebook groups of moms. Every hour, there's a mom asking for a mask optional school recommendation or switch their kids to FLVS because your virtual option is chaos. All for what? For control and a power trip from the unions and the experts. The experts who clearly only have one goal in mind, their way or the highway. The hatred in the tone of voice of Dr. Marty during the Monday meeting was nauseating. You could feel it in your bones. She treated us like kids, saying that parents that don't behave need to be mandated the mask as well as their kids. She stated, the virus is the way it is due to the behavior of people, and until they don't start behaving, we have to mask the kids and the staff, because the virus only lives in the classroom, because once the child gets in the car, 8 out of 10 masks are off, the kids are off to sports, play dates, the mall, parties, and Disney. At 3:20 p.m., when the teachers clock out, masks are off. They hit the gym, happy hour, the bars, concerts, and they don't think of the mask until the next school day. You're only hurting the ones you proclaim to protect, because those who can't will leave the system, and you will be left with what? We were told to be here at 4 p.m. today, that's when the doors would open for us that had signed up. How convenient that this meeting, that this item was moved 2 hours earlier.
Thank you so much. Thomas Kroger? Tonica Bennett?
I'm here, Madam Chair.
Oh, how are you, sir? Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thomas Krager, and I'm here as the concerned parent of a rising second grader at Sunset Elementary. I support the task force recommendations, and I support Superintendent Carvalho's support of those recommendations. But as Delta ravages our community, I urge you all to go further. If my 7-year-old daughter were here next to me today, you would all look at her and think that she's a normal, happy, healthy kid. And she looks like that to the outside world. But she was born with a very rare birth defect called an omphalocele. She was in Jackson's NICU for 54 days. She has endured countless surgeries, countless hospitalizations. And one of the complications that remain for her is that her lungs and her upper airway and her ability to fend off even the common cold is not the same as other kids. Many times, the common cold has put her in the hospital for days on end. So it is frustrating that I have to choose between sending her to the magnet program that she loves at Sunset, but where we may not be doing all that we can to protect her and other kids like her, and potentially disenrolling her and forcing her to go into another virtual program. My child's medical issues may be unique, but my concern as a parent for my child is the same as almost everyone else here today. We know that masks work. We know that eating outside and not in a cafeteria works to help reduce transmission. And we know that MSO, even though imperfect, can be an important and crucial bridge for kids like mine who may be too complex and too fragile to go to school, and to help reduce overall populations in the schools. So a mask mandate is welcome and necessary, but I urge you all to consider more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Tanika Bennett? John McCarthy? Elizabeth Soto? Carol Jackson? Donna Fishkin? Natalia Balceras, I'm sorry. Dr. Nancy Lothar? Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Superintendent, board members. I am Nancy Lothar, representing Miami-Dade County Council of PTA PTSAs. The 4th chapter of Genesis asks a question that resonates among those of many different religious beliefs. Am I my brother's keeper? PTA, a non-sectarian, non-partisan association, answers that question with a definitive yes. Concern not simply for our own child, but for all children, infuses our mission statement and echoes loudly in a motion that our executive board approved on August 5th. You've all received a copy of this motion, but to refresh the memory, of everyone, I will summarize our position. Among its other COVID mitigation measures, the district should enact a mask mandate exempting only those children whose parents provide documentation attesting to a medical condition contraindicating mask use. During yesterday's emergency meeting of the State Board of Education, the argument was made that such a medically conditioned exemption from the governor's executive order violates the recently passed Parental Bill of Rights. As Superintendent Simon of Alachua County pointed out, however, the statute in question itself provides for an exception when the action of the governmental entity is reasonable and necessary to achieve a compelling state interest, is narrowly tailored, and is not otherwise served by a less restrictive mean. For this reason, we urge the amendment of the item at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Vanessa Gomez? Lady Smith? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for letting me speak today. My name is Lady Smith. I live on 3020 Southwest 2nd Avenue, which is in District 6. I have a 7-year-old who has been attending the magnet program at Southside for the past 2 years. I am here to explain to you the impossible situation that many families of the magnet school students now face. I remember when my son was 5 years old. He came to me after the first 9 weeks of the magnet program. He had all A's and B's. I was so proud of him. But he told me, "Mommy, I am going to have all A's." The next weeks, and every 9 weeks after that, he did. But the magnet program is more than just good grades. Over the courses of the last 2 years, my son has made so many friends. And as parents, we have built a community around Southside Elementary. We have supported each other through these whole difficulties of 2020. Unfortunately, that has ended. Yesterday, I had to withdraw my son from Southside and place him in Miami-Dade virtual school because there was not, at a minimum, a mask mandate. This was the only way to guarantee a spot in the virtual school, but it came at a cost of his school of choice. My family did not want this. I called Southside, I sent emails, and I contacted my school board member's office for direction. No one could give me an answer before the deadline. We had to give up our son's school of choice, losing his friends and the community that we have built in order to protect his safety. I am calling on you to do something about it. In addition to a real total mandate and mandatory vaccinations for teachers and staff, give us back the school of choice we were promised. My school online, MSO, is the best option until children can be vaccinated. But until then, let my son keep a spot in the magnet program at Southside Elementary and protect him and all of the other children who were promised their school of choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Superintendent?
I'm not speaking on the item. I just wanted to have an opportunity. I've been asked to clarify one issue, and we're listening to poignant positions by parents who are advocating what they believe is the best choice for their child, particularly those parents, like voices we've heard today, of children who may have conditions that they fear could be quite impactful to their healthy lives should they return to the schoolhouse. And the choice is between, quite frankly, the schoolhouse or a virtual option, but to access that virtual option, there's a requirement that you need to basically abandon your membership in the school. That is not a Miami-Dade County Public Schools decision. As I've explained to a couple of parents individually, when the executive order of the governor and the Commissioner of Education expired or was terminated, the protections for the MSO option terminated. That is why no school system in the state of Florida is currently offering for this upcoming school year an MSO option. What districts are offering is exactly what we're offering, whether it is a virtual school program or a Miami-Dade online academy, 2 different options. But yes, based on existing regulations, the student cannot be enrolled in two different programs simultaneously. And the state actually requires that that student be enrolled in one single program that draws their FTE. Otherwise, I can guarantee you, I think this board, this superintendents across the state would quickly enable the MSO option for parents and students who want to avail themselves of that option. The state did pass legislation, my last point, this last legislative session, that would authorize hybrid models that would actually allow for exactly what parents are asking for, which is the free flow between the virtual program and the schoolhouse based on the voluntary decision of parents. After repeated calls to Tallahassee, we were told that the application process for that hybrid model for a district will not open until November, when the school year starts in Miami-Dade, August 23rd. So we kept calling for technical assistance and guidance or the application process, and that was the last information. We're going to continue to apply pressure to see if, still for this school year, there's still an opportunity to create that additional option for parents. But right now, our hands are shackled. This board does not have the latitude to create or open an MSO program under the current state guidelines. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Ariela Esser? Is Ariela here? Marta Guerrero? Maria Guerrero, I'm sorry. Charles Carr? Jennifer De Paz? Patrenia Dozier Washington? Dalila Rodriguez? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Board. I'm going to go simple and to the point. I was raised here in Miami. I came from Cuba when I was 5 years old. I was the only person, the only student in the classroom who did not wear the red communist symbol around their neck. So I will not comply with you all masking my kids. That is not your choice. It is mine. It is the parents' choice. You have absolutely no power or authority over the children that I bore. I have three, a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old. The two oldest ones are petrified in wheelchairs. They have muscular dystrophy. Their lungs are damaged. Everything is not the same, okay? But even still, that will be, putting a mask on these kids will kill them. Rather, they'll survive COVID more than the mask. So I will not comply. And if it takes pulling my kids out of school, how many parents are gonna do? The reason why you're calling name after name and no one's here is because this was supposed to be at 4:30, but you all decided to make it earlier. Why? To avoid people like me, La Peste, or whatever, the stinky ones, right? The ones that are gonna kill everybody in the school system with masks that allow for the virus to go in and out as it pleases, okay? There is absolutely no proof that that mask is gonna prevent COVID. A disease, a virus that has more than a 98% survival rate. This is not a pandemic. This is a plandemic. Okay? And quite frankly,
Ma'am, your time is up. I'll let you wrap it up. Yes.
thank you for the opportunity to talk, and I hope you can reconsider the fact that these are our children, not yours.
Thank you, ma'am.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, was there anything written that this meeting would be at 4 o'clock? I have not heard any such thing.
Dr. Perry, I'm so glad that you asked that because I was going to address that. I was trying to ask the court reporter, the secretary of the board about the indication about the 4:30 that was mentioned, and I haven't gotten a response. I was just texting that. There's nothing unusual, and the reason I was going to address that, there's nothing unusual about moving items out of order. We do this every month at every board meeting. The presiding officer, in this case, is me, so I assume responsibility, but as courtesy to all board members, that get me a request in writing days before the meeting to move items earlier on, I do so. I ask permission from the board to move the first item that was teacher recognition, to do it first, and the board, with their intelligence and their permission, allow me to do so. So there's nothing different. There's nothing that we do, or I do in this case, just to prevent people from speaking. I think we have had plenty of speakers, and we will continue to do so. And then at the public hearing, certainly people have the opportunity to speak. That's what we're here for. So even the mention that this was moved on for I do not know what convenience, I can attest to that I'm responsible, and that's not the way I do business. I do business as a courtesy of the board members when they request that before in writing, and I have 3 requests. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with speakers being present or not. So I just want that for the record. Thank you very much. No, sir, no, sir, no.
Madam Chair?
Mr.
Madam Chair.
Superintendent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to provide the chair and the board that we checked with the board secretary and the agenda staff. No such information was provided specific to item H17 or any item before the board specific to a time certain. What is customary? What is customary is there is a public hearing time, and the board can begin the public hearing in advance of that time, but anyone who is not here, whose name is called, then can speak at the public hearing. No information was provided by any staff member regarding a time certain for any item on this agenda. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. No, sir. You're out of order, sir. You're out of order, sir. Are you Dozier, Mr. Dozier Washington? Good afternoon, sir. I'm so glad that you could wait a little bit. Thank you, ma'am, for your indulgence. Thank you.
My name is Ms. Dozier Washington. I'm a 38-year teacher with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, retired and still working with children. I want to say, with reference to the mask, is that I've lost a lot of friends to COVID, and it could have been prevented. But the main thing I want to talk about is protecting children. We have a duty as citizens to protect our children. When I talk with my friends that are doctors, and I hear about the children that are dying, it upsets me and it hurts me. And I do know that you all have done a good job at orchestrating and doing things on for the best interest of the children in Miami-Dade County. I'm just asking you to think along those lines. In addition to that, you know, we talk about our rights, but I don't think it's a right of anybody to subject someone to death and to destroy their lives because you have your rights. I think it's the same concept when we talk about children that we put into foster care because somebody's right didn't allow them to be cared for properly. I think it's the same concept when we talk about children that are protected by wearing masks and making sure that they are healthy when they come to school and healthy when they leave school. It's the same concept when we talk about protecting the teachers and instructors who work with them. I think everybody should wear masks to protect each other and to keep each other safe so that you don't leave this earth because of somebody's just frivolous decision. I think the important thing is to protect our children. They didn't ask to come into this world, but they came here, and I think it's our job as adults to make sure that they are cared for properly and that they are taken care of until it's time for them to be adults and manage their lives on their own. So I'm saying to you, I think it's important that everybody that functions in Miami-Dade County Public Schools wear a mask unless they're outside. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Richard Rodriguez? Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, staff. Thank you for your services. I am a paramedic by trade, and I serve proudly my community. Okay, what I do support is the Constitution of the United States, not as the senator stated. We have rights. I, as a parent, have a right to protect my children, just like you parents that are worried about your children and that getting the COVID virus. So I want to talk to people here real quick. Did we all forget about the swine flu? Because I rode the box in the swine flu. It was the end of the world. That one killed children. Okay? We also had the bird flu. End of the world again. Here we are. Believe the CDC. Put on a mask. Take off a mask. 6 feet away. 12 feet away. Did we all forget about this? Would you like to see the numbers from the Marxist New York Times? 2%. 2% worldwide death rate according to infected people. Well, that can't be true. Well, let's look at the United States. 37 million, and we have 623,000, 1.5%. My children, 2 of my children, have muscular dystrophy. Fatal, okay? And even they're saying, I do not want to wear this mask because it's against my constitutional right. I choose, Dad, not to wear it. My son in June, July, caught this disease when they did not know what this is. Are we all going to die? I will guarantee that my son, okay, has deficiencies in his lung as compared to the majority of people here.
Sir,
And he
sir,
chose not to. I will calm down, ma'am. I will
No,
calm
that's all
down.
right. Would you please speak to us, sir?
Point of order.
Thank
Point of
you.
order. My
No, I
apologies
didn't
to the
say that.
staff.
I ask you to please speak to us, sir. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. The numbers don't lie according to what you all say. Believe our leaders in the CDC, NIH, and all this other stuff. I hear a quote from the Vice President of the Union. Eisenhower says, if you hitting is assault. Well, ma'am, you know what? On the other side, forcing the mask, you're assaulting parents, you're assaulting children, and now I believe if you historically, you teachers, look at the dictatorships throughout this world,
Sir?
this is how it begins. Thank you all for your
Your time
time.
is up. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question. I just
Yes.
stepped out from the outside, and I know we have very limited capacity here. We're on item H17. There are people standing outside who have signed up to speak to H17. So if we could ask, Madam Chair, if you're here for another item that is not H17, as a courtesy to those people who have signed up to speak, I know there's a limited capacity. There's people outstanding out there who have signed up to speak. Our staff, our secretary has a list of people who cannot come in the auditorium to the point of the speakers.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Superintendent, yes, sir?
Yes, there's, Madam Chair, rest assured, we are respectful and we know what we're doing. The list exists. Every single person who signed up to speak, their names are going to be called. They'll be brought in, speak. If there's no seat, then they can exit. But we're going to go down the list and ensure that everyone's going to be called.
Thank you. I've been calling everyone, and I believe the Chief of Staff also has signaled to me that everyone has been called. I have to continue.
Madam Chair, may I address the chair, please?
Yes, sir.
If I vacate, may citizens outside willing to speak be allowed to come in to please speak?
If they're in the
That
gate.
have been called, can they please be confirmed to their
Sir, I called everyone on the list, and I will continue to do so. So the answer, I cannot engage into this My apology. I
Madam-
cannot engage into a conversation like this, but I will be calling everyone. If there's anyone that I've called that would like to speak, I will allow the person to speak, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry?
Madam Chair, if I may, Madam Chair, if I may, for the record, I'm glad that you just, for the record, I'm glad you just stated that, because our goal is to hear every single person that has signed up to speak. It is your right to do so, and we are here to listen. So just want to make sure that everybody understands that no matter how many people are out there, if we run out of time, I'm going to request for additional time, because I believe that everyone needs to have an opportunity to express their concerns. So thank you, Madam Chair. That is what you stated, and I am very glad to hear it. Thank you very much,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Did I call Mr. Rodriguez? I believe Mr. Rodriguez was here, yes. Ashlyn Endler, enter. Is Mr. Enter here? No? Elaine H. Black? Kevin Chambliss, State Representative Kevin Chambliss here? Dr. Pooja Malhotra? Dr. Ian Magruder? David Singer? Ross Rywell? Mr. Rywell? No. Lisette Malagon? Dr. Tobena Ubu? Dr. Louis Gude? Dr. Nancy Suarez? Phyllis Compton? Dr. Stephanie Sedena?
Right here.
Oh, ma'am, thank you. Would you please state your name?
Yes, my name is Phyllis Compton, President of United Teachers of Dade, retired.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Superintendent Carvalho, and board members. It has been a while since I have appeared before this board. Some of your faces are new to me, while others I have been in contact with over the years. Regardless of our level of familiarity, there has never been a topic that has aroused my level of concern and frustration more than the one I will be addressing today. I come to you today as the president of UTD Retired, the parent of an MDCPS educator, and a concerned grandparent. We have heard the argument from some that parents should have the freedom to make the choice for their children over the wearing of masks. However, the recent Medical Task Force conclusion that masks should be required for children and staff is one I heartily endorse. As educators, we follow the science. We always follow the science. Some of you on this board are too young to remember the polio epidemic in the 1950s. It was an epidemic of monumental proportion. The long tubular breathing machines, known as iron lungs, could not save the lives of many adults and children. And those who survived suffered crippling defects. Today, we are grateful to the doctors and scientists who developed the polio vaccine that has all but eradicated the disease. Inoculation was and is currently required before children enter school. For those who believe our children can't wear masks all day, I'd like to offer a personal anecdote about my own first-grade granddaughter who lives in Colorado. Last year, when Boulder County schools opened for in-person learning, she, along with the rest of the students, were required to wear masks. They did just fine. They worked, they socialized, and they learned. This year, the governor of Colorado once again gave superintendents and school boards the opportunity to make the right decision for their own districts. That is the right thing to do. What we do know at this moment is children can be spreaders of the virus even without showing symptoms. The percentage of children infected with the virus has increased to unacceptable levels. And yes, there have been deaths. A deeply troubling concern is that masking has become a political tool. It should never be political, ever. It is not about immigrants. It is not about borders.
Ms. Compton,
It
your
is not
time is
about the
up,
right
but
to
I'll let you
choose.
wrap it up,
Okay.
yes.
So I want you to understand the threat of COVID-19 and its variants is critical. Please don't gamble with the lives of our children and teachers. Their health and well-being is in your hands.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Stephanie Cedeno? Cedeno, I'm sorry. Dwight Bullard? Senator Dwight Bullard, is he here? Brielle Robinson? Mayra Jolie? May I ask your name, please? Because I have two ladies here.
Brielle Robinson.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Would you please go ahead, and then it will be your turn.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Mayra Jolie, and I take this opportunity to thank the parents, concerned parents, for taking time out of their day to be here today. Excuse me if I don't thank the board, because it's your job to be here, so I don't have to thank any of you. Now, I'm thinking that sometimes maybe it's best to have masks, so politicians, we don't have to see when they are talking out of both sides of their mouth. And the masks serve that purpose. But I have another question. I am asking everybody who's telling me what to do with my kid, who do you think you are? You think that we don't know what is happening? Do you think we don't know that the vaccine, people that are vaccinated are being sick with COVID? Do you think that we don't know that it's a very rare chance that a child will get COVID? We have some kids that can get it, the same way that some kids can get any other illness. Right now, we are the ones who bring these children to this world. And I have people telling us parents that you know better than us, that you know what is better for our children, better than the parents and the mothers who have to give birth to those children. The audacity of anyone thinking that they are going to mask my child just because they feel like it. Each one of you, except one, will have to make decisions for your own lives. We, as parents, we do with our children what is best for our children. We don't have political agendas when it comes for the best interest of our kids. And certainly, we don't get paid to push anybody's agenda. Because if parents are violating any rules, look you guys yourself in the mirror and
Your
let us
time is up,
know,
ma'am. Your time is up.
if you are following the science when you want to put boys
Ma'am.
in girls' bathroom.
Ma'am.
Let me know if the science is saying that
Ma'am,
there are more
your
than
time
two
is up,
genders.
ma'am. Your
Then
time
we
is
talk
up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am.
about theory to yourself also. Permiso, sir?
Is Brian, are you Mrs. Robinson? Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Robinson.
Good afternoon, Chair, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Superintendent, members of the board. I, like many other rising seniors, thought that after spending almost 2 years online, taking both doses of the Pfizer vaccine, and following the safety guidelines, we would be returning to a pre-pandemic world to finish our last year of high school. Unfortunately, mask mandates were lifted too early in our communities, and we are witnessing the ramifications of safety suggestions versus enforceable mandates. My fellow students and I understand that we will not return to normal unless we do the work necessary to mitigate this disease. And yet very few of us are present during these conversations. Adults are arguing about whether safety mandates are necessary when cases among children under 12 increased by 650% this summer. Students want to enjoy our school year in person, but only under the pretense of complete safety. Students As a student at Coral Gables Senior High School, which is in your district, Ms. Rojas, I urge you, and I am begging you, not to make us choose between our safety and our education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jamie Solis? Is Jamie Solis here? Yes, all right. Don't rush. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Superintendent, board members. My name is Jamie Solis. I'm a teacher, I'm a mom. Many of you guys know my story. 3 years ago, my daughter fell ill, not because of COVID. To this day, I don't know what exactly happened to her. But today, she's in a bed, in coma still, on 24-hour nursing, and on a ventilator. It's not fun. It's really hard to see kids reach milestones and my daughter be in that bed. It's hard for me to leave my house and enjoy life when I know my daughter's in that bed. I've become, the nurses at Nicholas, the RTs have become my family. We and friends, they call me, and I'm constantly checking on the stuff, because at any given moment, my daughter could go back into the hospital. And all you people that say that COVID doesn't attack kids, COVID is real and it's attacking our kids, because my friends, not the government, not the news, my friends that are nurses are telling me, Jamie, make sure that Mel's good and that you don't have to bring her in, because there's COVID everywhere here. And that scares me, because if my daughter was to catch COVID, I have to bury her. And that to me is very hard. So I am willing, as a teacher, to go in and teach and put myself at risk. But please, protect our staff, protect our kids, because what are you going to do when you have to bury your child? Oh, I'm sorry? Oh, I was wrong? COVID is real and it's attacking our kids. Yesterday, there was only 5 PICU beds in Broward. So if my daughter was to have an emergency, Joe DiMaggio would be the hospital that she has to go to, because I live on county line. And it's pretty scary to know that there's almost no beds for people like her, that if there's an emergency arises that, they're full. It's very scary what we're living. And the fact that the numbers, it doesn't exist, that it doesn't attack COVID, the kids, it does, very much so. So I hope you consider, because it's real. And I would hate to see any of our kids on a ventilator.
Thank you, ma'am, thank you. I've concluded this list, but I am going to start calling again public speakers that may be outside and see if they could come in. The board secretary indicated that this short list that I have here are public speakers that I've called before, but they are outside, so I'm going to call them again. Megan Goycuria. Would somebody please, are you Ms. Goycuria?
I am.
Yes, very good. Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you. Would you like to speak?
Yes. Megan Goycuria, community member and mother to 2 children in the Miami-Dade public school system. Today I'm back to address the board members and the superintendent with your poor arguments surrounding the masking of my children all day at school. In the name of science and common sense, the very people who line your pockets for campaigns, grants, and such are the very people who you are choosing to work with and appease. You want to pontificate parents and tell us that we are standing up here lacking common sense or knowledge in science? Come on, we know what this mask mandate is about. How about this one? My children have been going to an indoor sports facility since May of 2020, maskless, in the epicenter of COVID, Miami, Florida. Maintaining their fitness and their sports indoors with any given time 150 to 200 maskless children. Not one episode or outbreak of COVID. Not one. Not with parents, coaches, or children. If a sports facility and their coaches can figure it out, why can't our educators figure it out? You are sitting up there telling me that you cannot figure out how to keep our kids and teachers safe from COVID without masking them, but those coaches and sports facility owners can? Riddle me that. The vaccination is available for all teachers that are fearful of my healthy, average weight children whose immune systems are strong. Masks are available for my healthy, average weight children whose immune systems are strong. For those of you who are fearful of my kids, let parents make the decision. If masks and vaccinations work, why do we continue this debate? Wear them. Put them on yourself. Put them on your kid. Get the vaccination. No one's stopping you. You can continue to keep this in limbo and keep this in litigation like the other county, or you can allow us the option, as we so rightfully have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fanny Celestine? Is Ms. Celestine here? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. As I looked at the list of speakers today,
Do you mind speaking on the mic? Thank you.
As I looked at the list of speakers today, it's obvious how the teachers union tried to silence parents, and as I look around me, and we know how they have organized a pro-mask rally. Instead of spending money on silencing parents, you should be spending that money on students, and yet here we are again. It's despicable that we have to remind the school board and the teachers union that our children deserve normalcy, and normalcy is not living with a piece of cloth on your face. I'm sure that no one has realized that the dirtiest part of the body is your mouth, and you are trying to force our kids to be muzzled for 7 to 8 hours a day. Wear the mask, get the vaccines, trust the science. There is a 1 in a million chance that your child will die of COVID than the seasonal flu. You are more likely to be struck by lightning than to die of COVID. We've gotten to a point where the parents see past the fear-mongering and realize that synthetic immunity doesn't work. Whatever happened to natural immunity? What is best in the best interest of the community at this point is letting the parents decide for themselves what is in the best interest of their children. This should be our choice. For those that are scared, do whatever you deem is in your best interest. If the vaccine works so well, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. For those teachers crying about being afraid of for their health and the students should continue wearing masks, let's point out how they aren't afraid to attend the Teacher of the Year conference in Orlando last month with no mask. You have to love how hypocrisy works. We all know the truth of this charade, and it all boils down to teachers wanting to stay home, do nothing, and get paid. Teachers call themselves heroes, but if they're heroes, shouldn't they be in school with the students? The real heroes are the employees that go into work, not complain, and do what they have to do and rightfully get paid for actually being there. How can teachers consider themselves heroes when they don't want to teach our children? You chose this career and get paid for it, therefore it doesn't make you a hero. You know who the real heroes are? The bag boy and the cashier in Publix. They have continued going to work every day. Teachers got a taste of staying home to work, get paid, and now want more. What would it look like if we all just sent our children to school with no masks? I will be taking my 2 kids and their FTE with me out of Florida and taking it over to Tennessee, a state that cares about the parents. To those in Miami-Dade County, may the sheep enjoy the masks.
Thank you very much. Bridget Albello? Bridget Albello?
Here. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Bridget Albello, and I am a simple mom of 4 kids in the Miami-Dade public school system. That also COVID has knocked my door, so I decided that I can stay as a passive spectator. Nobody can force you to unmask your child if you don't want to. It's your right to decide what is the best for your child, and I think that message has been twisted. It's ironic how the UTD claims that the totalitarianism from the state government just for giving freedom of choice to parents. Instead, they want the school board to act as totalitarians. We have been doing the same over and over, and we are in the same vicious cycle. Mask mandates have shown that have failed to stop the spread of the virus. A great example was the trend in cases between April 2020 and January 2021, when these alone lockdowns were in place. It's clear that the trend went up in a bold way, so it didn't meet the disease prevention rule. It has been pushed that there is an unanimous consensus between doctors and experts that masks are effective and they are not harmful for kids. That's false. Any decent voice from any doctor, expert, or any study has been censored, blocked, and dismissed as misinformation. And they haven't been allowed being part of the discussion. That's not science. That's authoritarianism. Sorry, English is my first language. Mr. Carvalho, why you didn't bring up an open debate between experts from the 2 perspectives and let parents decide it based in the weight of benefits and risk? No one is taking this virus as a joke, but it came to stay with us the rest of our lives, and virus mutates, so variants will come. The Delta variant is more contagious, but the data say the mortality rate for all children remains extremely low. We have had past seasonal influenzas that had thousands of hospitalizations and a higher mortality rate for kids between 0.6 and 1.0. And we didn't mask all our children.
Your
either
time
close
is up,
our
ma'am.
school.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jimena Hills? Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jimena Hills. I'm a recreational therapist and the director of the Brain Optimization Program at Setner Academy. I have focused 15 years of my practice on early childhood development. I am also the mother of 2 school-aged children. I speak from my professional knowledge as well as personal experience. Social emotional development is being stunted by mask wearing in children, especially for younger children whose brains are in the process of developing these skills. I speak to families daily who have kept their kids at home this past school year because their kids can't wear masks. I have seen kids experiencing serious academic delays and gaps. I have seen firsthand 3- and 4-year-olds with anxiety and developmental delays, exacerbated by the mask wearing and social distancing. In my professional opinion, if we continue with this practice, we will see a generation of young adults seriously lacking empathy, social-emotional skills, and human connection. There was a research paper in Germany with over 25,000 participants where an alarming 68% of parents reported psychological and physical problems. The top 4 complaints were headaches, difficulty concentrating, discomfort, and impairment of learning. I experienced this with my daughter, who, like 40 to 70% of children, suffers from allergies and enlarged adenoids. She would tell me how she couldn't breathe in a mask, and like other kids I've witnessed, and as mentioned in the study, used to complain of headaches, dizziness, and fatigue after wearing a mask, even for a short period of time. At Setner Academy, we upheld our promise to be the school of happiness. We made mask optionals, didn't enforce social distancing, nor did we put kids behind plexiglass. Instead, we focused on healthy eating, clean air, clean water, and physical fitness, all of which go further in keeping kids and adults healthy than any masking or social distancing ever will. Please do not withhold an innocent child's right to a free education because they don't comply with mandates. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Maria Guerrero?
Good afternoon. Today, the board has made the decision on mandatory facial coverings for students. Unlike the consensus of the medical advisory panel, this is a big deal, and our kids will have to wear them 5 to 9 hours a day. We are now going into our 3rd school year with COVID protocols. My daughter missed her pre-K and K graduation. Almost her whole career has been under the restriction of COVID. Every day she would take a deep breath before school and say, I'm not going to be able to breathe all day. She was so excited when she saw at the July school board meeting, Dr. Cavallo said masks would be optional this fall. However, it seems that we're now trending in the opposite direction. I believe the intention of the meeting with the doctors was to get facts in order to make a well-thought-out decision based on science. So please, before you make that decision today, please look at these facts and review the science. What are the statistics on children and deaths and hospitalization? If someone had suggested to you in the 2018-2019 school year that children wear masks during flu season, what would you have thought? Would you think it was absurd to not allow children to interact freely and breathe? As per the American Academy of Pediatrics, as of August 12th, over 4.41 million children have tested positive for COVID since the onset of the pandemic. However, children were 0.0 to 0.25% of all COVID deaths and 0.2 to 1.9% of all hospitalizations. They concluded that hospitalization and death from COVID for children is very uncommon. I didn't hear the doctors talk about this on Monday. What about the studies on mask wearing? I didn't hear this either. They just said, oh, surgeons wear them all day. They're fine. When asked about the effectiveness of the mask, Dr. Marty said a small umbrella is better than none. Well, obviously, she has never been outside in a rainstorm in Miami. A small umbrella does nothing, and our children are not going to wear N95 masks. Where's the statistics on the other masks? Also, there's been a huge mental toll on the children. And where is our threshold for ending masks? Will it be when no children have to wear masks anymore? Please examine these questions and look at the science closely. I think each of you chose this job because you care about our children. Please do what's best and allow the parents to decide what is best for their children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sanette Diaz? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Zainat Diaz, and I'm a parent and a teacher at Sander Academy. I'm here today to express my concern about mask mandates in schools. I'm here to invite you to reflect on the fact that mask mandates go against the responsibility to take care of ourselves as human beings. Mask use is compromising so many little brains since very young ages. Our children deserve better. They deserve to breathe freely, not recycle sweat air. I am here to ask you to please understand that our kids are just starting to grow. The ill-considered act of masking our children interferes with our human nature. We live to breathe. Masking our children involves severe consequences regarding our health, brain development being the main one. Masking our children is forcing them to do something they do not want or they don't agree with, and we are taking their powers away. I am here to tell you that mask use is attacking these children's social emotional development. Have you asked your children if he or she wants to be masked? Have you really let them talk and speak their truth and believe? Have you really listened to them? I was a middle school student last year. At the beginning of the school year, I noticed most of my students having a lot of headaches, dizziness, and always complaining about almost everything. For those students that I have thought from years before, I knew this was not a common type of behavior. By December last year, many of our students from Sander Academy decided to take their power back and opt out the use of masks. They soon realized how well they were feeling again, how engaged they started showing in their lives. It was so beautiful to see this transformation. These children were happily ever after. I can tell you from my experience as a preteen teacher that our kids were happy, socializing in school, working collaboratively on projects together and growing tremendously. I have seen this with my real eyes. Masks are robbing our kids' life experiences. They're intimidating them and making them live in fear. They're recklessly damaging their brains because someone else's decisions, and they're not even being heard, like if they don't matter. By asking them to wear a mask, we're teaching them to give their power away. I am here to call your attention to this huge matter, the fact that our kids' lives matter, that our children's health matters, and that we need to honor our power of breathing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Karen Villamizar?
I'm sorry. I was called earlier, and I was told to come
I'm
up.
sorry, sir. I'm sorry. May I have your name?
Mark Plyler. I was called, and I was trying to get in, but I'm on the list.
I'm not sure what name. What is the name? I can't hear.
Mark, M-A-R-K, Plyler, P-L-Y-L-E-R.
One moment, sir. Bear with me, please. Yes. Yes, I did call you, sir. Yes, Mark Pyle, yes. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon, members of the school board, Mr. Superintendent. I'm kind of going to go off the cuff here, but I just, look, I know this is a very tough job we're in. I mean, no matter which decision you go, it's going to be, it's a tough, thankless job, and I want to thank you guys for being here and making the best decision. I'm just very concerned, the school, I'm sorry. I teach at Frank C. Martin K-8 Center. I'm the union steward there, and I'm also on the executive board. And I'm concerned for my colleagues and my students. We know this virus, the Delta variants are there, and you know, with masks, we got to do the best we can to protect ourselves, because even vaccinated individuals can still go to the hospital and to catch this. And I know it's the, well, what about our freedoms? Well, the thing is, I mean, with that logic, then do we make speed limits optional? Well, if we did that, if we turned the turnpike into the Autobahn, well, then nobody would get to work. None of us would be able to go anywhere. And I know it's inconvenient. I mean, school uniforms are there for our safety, but we wear them because, you know, there's a safety factor. Stop signs are there because it's a safety factor. I know we have to give up some of our freedoms, but the reason we do this is so that we can all be safe, and hopefully if we are able to work together, then we won't have to wear them, we only have to wear them for a short period of time, as opposed to if we prolong it like we did, then, you know, it could be a lot longer and we could have more dangerous variants and so forth. So I'm just very concerned. You know, if we can find a way to work together, I know not everybody agrees with me here, but I just think if we can do that for a short period of time, it's a lot safer for everybody, and I don't want anybody to get sick, be in the hospital, or even worse. So that's, and like I said, I know it could be a thankless job. So I just, please consider that, because I'm just concerned for the safety of our children and our colleagues.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Karen Villamizar.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This mask is not a breathable mask. Instead, it's breeding grounds for bacteria which do more harm than aid health. It's an obstacle to our children's education, especially the little ones who are just learning to read, spell, pronounce, and most importantly, a barrier for our children to see each other smile. I would like to refer to DeSantis' executive order, Parents' Bill of Rights, and the fact that parents are the ones to make medical decisions for our children. A mask is considered a medical device. Who is anyone but a parent to make a medical decision over our children? Our children cannot endure another year of masks. Depression, eating disorders, and self-harm rates have increased this past school year. During the pandemic, more than 25% of students reported worsened emotional cognitive health. More than 20% of parents with children ages 5 through 12 reported their children experienced worsened mental and emotional health. Anxiety, major depression, eating disorders amongst the ages of 13 to 18 rose to 94% and 84% respectively, all due to isolation, loss of identity, triggered to the domestication of mask wearing. Our children are resilient and their bodies are equipped to fight any natural disease. They don't need to wear a mask. Children and young people remain at a low risk of COVID mortality, and they're not spreaders, with a survival rate of 99.997%. If we have a demographic with a high survival rate, why should they be demanded to wear a mask? Why should our children wear masks, being the group with the highest survival rate, while there's other countless pictures of individuals, the school board members, UTD, former president, out and about maskless, while our children have to endure 8 hours of being masked? It's beyond my understanding why those pushing the mask mandate are selective with their own mandates. Our bodies were beautifully and perfectly created to withstand natural diseases with proper nutrition, exercise, adequate sleep, and social interaction. These important life necessities can be taught at home and school in partnership to create wellness in our future generations. Today, myself, along with many other parents, demand masks to be optional and allow parents to decide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Eric Hunningham? Sorry, I did not pronounce your name well.
Oh, no problem. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Eric Honigman, and I just fled my home state of California due to the mental illness and destructive policies that I now see infiltrating this state. After being a high school teacher for 15 years in Los Angeles, I quit my job because I refused to wear a mask at work, and I refused to teach in front of students that had been muzzled. I will not be complicit in what I believe to be child abuse. I'll give you and all the mask supporters an alternative approach. Instead of muzzling kids, traumatizing them, and destroying their immune system, how about you actually require things good for their health, such as at least 1 hour of sun exposure per day, nothing but nutritious, organic, whole food meals instead of processed garbage that is typically served in cafeterias, at least 1 hour of physical activity per day, social time with friends and family, a walk through nature, perhaps the beach, and a full night's rest, just to name a few. This approach will strengthen their immune system. Problem solved. Masks are gone forever, and this strategy can work with adults too. Fear and the media are the only viruses we should be concerned about. Let's turn off our TVs, computers, and phones and get back to living. Let the kids breathe. Let the kids see each other laugh and smile. Just let the kids be kids. I will be praying for all you board members and all the mask supporters. I really wish you well and that you will wake up as well. We all have the ability to live a vibrant, healthy life when we take full responsibility for our health. No government intervention necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Kelly Sheehan? Good afternoon, ma'am.
I was already called, but I was outside in the lobby and they didn't let me in till now.
But are you Kelly Sheehan?
No.
No. My name is Nancy Suarez. I was already called.
Yes, one moment, please. Yes. I'm sorry, ma'am, Nancy?
Suarez.
Yes, Nancy Suarez, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Suarez. I am a teacher at Southside Preparatory. I'm a UTD building steward, but my most important title is Jonathan's mom. When my son was about a year old, during his annual physical, the pediatrician measured and weighed him, gave him his next vaccines, and ran the regular labs. 2 days later, we returned to the pediatrician because the tuberculin skin test reacted. The doctor gave me what I then thought was the worst news. He had tested positive for tuberculosis. I was devastated. I cried like I had never cried before because I felt like somehow I had not done enough to protect my child, which was not the case. I had done everything right. It was that one elevator ride or that one time in the waiting room where he was exposed. That's all it took. One time where someone laughed, coughed, sneezed, spit, or sang, and the microscopic droplets were released into the air that my baby was breathing. The pediatrician calmed me down and walked me through the next steps. Because for TB, there are next steps. The science exists for TB. For 9 months, he underwent the treatment and the monthly labs. He now has latent TB, which means he is infected with TB, but does not have the TB disease. But this is not sufficient peace of mind. Every time he came down with a cold, croup, I worried. Was this the cold that would trigger symptoms of the disease? It would be something that I had to disclose every time that I took him to the doctor's office. In February of this year, I realized that I had not received the worst news of my life. All it took was that one maskless friend, asymptomatic, to bring COVID to my home. All of us were infected with COVID. We were sick with COVID, and my heart sunk. The positive results lasted for 14 days. We had all sorts of symptoms, and I'm asking you to please vote for masking the students.
Thank you. I coached Kelly Sheehan. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello. Hello to the board. As we established, my name is Kelly Sheehan. My son will be starting 7th grade this year. Regarding the masks, it should be optional. Why should it be optional? Because if not, we now know that biomedical segregation is next. Clearly, we also know the vaccine has serious flaws. So asking the vaccinated population why they're scared to be around people without masks, that would be fruitless. Also, I suspect that any question not agreeing with challenging our governor will fall on deaf ears. You guys don't care at all that he's going to stop your paychecks because you already know that Biden's going to bail you out. Biden would rather you continue your role as pawns in this politicized mess and keep pushing the envelope, knowing that your actual pocket will not get affected. We know Biden is going to give you federal dollars to not listen to our governor. Those are federal dollars that could go to small businesses, it could go to some sort of sustainable infrastructure. I'm sure there's a gazillion things that could be done by the federal government to spend that money that would benefit the entire population rather than bail you out for not listening to your boss. There are people here that you represent. We would never have that option. Can any of us working middle or upper middle class jobs imagine a scenario where our boss gives us the direction, we give him the middle finger, and then their boss comes over and says, don't worry, you're not going to have to listen to him. I'm going to make sure you get paid no matter what. An entire crop of kids are being trained to believe this is how it works. Anyone that works in a hotel or a call center or a retail manager cannot even imagine this scenario playing out with their boss. It must be nice to come to Florida from all over the world and instill your ways of thinking into our lives. Way to go, guys and girls. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Aaron Baslon. Is Aaron Baslon here? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is Aaron Boslin, and I have 3 points I want to make while I'm here today. The first is about teachers. I came here in Miami-Dade County as a teacher from 2012 to 2016, taught at Homestead Senior High, was represented by Larry Feldman. I'm now represented by Lucia Baez-Geller. Both my parents are teachers. All 4 of my grandparents are educators from an elementary school teacher's aide through high school and college professors. And the idea that's been put forward so many times that teachers are somehow separate from parents is not true. My parents are real people. My grandparents are real people, and so many of the teachers who've spoken here today, like Ms. Suarez previously, are members of this community and deserve the safety and consideration that they have as teachers as well as parents, and they are not somehow something different. Second is that safety is the first and ultimate consideration. In my first year teaching in the Miami-Dade County Public Schools in 2012, Sandy Hook was tragically attacked, and 26 students and teachers alike were killed in that attack. And maybe it's just the age I am, maybe it's that time period, but it became deeply ingrained in me, as for so many of us, that student safety is the first and ultimate consideration, and nothing is second to that, no matter what you might have heard on the news or no matter what might complicate your own ideological orientation. And that leads to the final thing, which is about the larger importance of the work that everyone in this room does. Another thing that happened in 2012 was that this board and this superintendent led the Miami-Dade County Public Schools to win the Broad Prize. It's the premier urban district in the United States. The Miami-Dade County Public Schools is not just important in terms of what it does for kids, although it is crucially important in the lives of kids. This building and this board and the work of everyone here does things that are the foundation of our community, and it starts with keeping everyone alive.
Thank you. Lisa Conrad? Thank you.
What's the name?
I'm sorry?
The name?
Lisa Conrad.
Lisa Conrad, yes. Thank you.
Hello, good day. Thank you. I just want to thank you guys now for listening with an open heart and an open mind. My name is Lisa Conrad. I am a mother and I'm an educator. I recently relocated to Miami, Florida this August from New Jersey to join a school community that respects parental choice and will never ever mandate on myself masks or vaccines on myself as a teacher or my child as a student. I don't know if this is working. I am a new teacher at Setner Academy, where I will teach art at a school that respects my right to breathe. My son will start kindergarten this year at a school where he gets to see the smiling faces of his teacher and friends. He gets to share toys, he gets to enjoy circle time, eat healthy organic food, have physical education every single day, and learn in an environment that nurtures his mind, body, and soul. We are blessed. And yet, it breaks my heart that all children will not be afforded a similar school experience this upcoming school year. Now I want to back up to August of 2020. Right before the start of the 2020 school year, I was an elementary art teacher in Newark, New Jersey at the public school system. I pulled my son from his preschool and I resigned from my full-time public school teaching job. This decision did not come lightly. For context, I am a single mother and the sole provider for my child, but I knew in my spirit that these mandates were not okay. For the entire school year, I worked under the table, I did pod teaching, I taught out of people's basements and makeshift one-room schoolhouses to teach kids in a normal and engaging way. My child was with me in tow. We all hugged, we laughed, and we learned socially engaged and not socially distanced. So why did I do this? When the CDC came out with their guidelines in the middle of last summer, I learned that the plexiglass cages and desks and masking children all day would be my new position, and I knew in my spirit that that was abuse and I would not participate. I urge you all to please not mask these children and respect parental choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerald Greenberg?
Good afternoon,
Good
Madam
afternoon,
Chair,
sir.
Mr. Superintendent, members of the board. It's an honor to be here. You've heard a lot. You've heard from esteemed medical experts. There's really nothing that somebody like me can add to that, other than just to say, as a parent, as the spouse of a teacher, how much I urge you to follow the strong, sound recommendation from the superintendent, and most importantly, the medical advisors, who were unambiguous. There is no medical, no legal, no ethical, no moral, no pedagogical reason, no reason whatsoever why there should be any exception to a firm mask mandate, a mask mandate with no opt-outs other than perhaps a medical one, as has been proposed. This is very clear, despite the vocal opposition, perhaps some outside, some in this room. It seems the majority of the community is clear in favor of a mask mandate to keep our children safe, to keep our teachers safe, to keep our families safe, especially children who are not yet old enough to be vaccinated, which of course makes up an extremely large part of your population in the public schools. And I thank you for what I hope you're going to do, and I urge you to follow the science, to follow the clear science, and to do the right thing. And while I said I have nothing to add, I do know that my two children are here, and I think they're right after me on the list. And even if nobody wants to hear what I have to say, hopefully, I know everybody on this board would like to hear what the children have to say. So thank you all, and I urge you to do the right thing, and thank you in advance for doing so.
Thank you, sir. Ada Greenberg? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Eitan Greenberg, and I'm 14 years old. I attend Miami Palmetto Senior High School. I'm fully vaccinated against COVID, but I support this mask mandate. It does help prevent the spread of COVID, especially against Delta, which has been soaring in South Florida. I think that while masks may be annoying to wear, they're the best thing other than the vaccines to help us against COVID. And I think that until Delta numbers get better, we have to keep this mandate. If we do not have a mandate, there could be more COVID cases at schools, which could disrupt classes, forcing people to quarantine. The mandate should also not have a parent opt-out. It should only have an opt-out that is signed by a doctor. Thank you for protecting the lives of students and parents and teachers.
Thank you. Addie Greenberg? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Adi Greenberg, and on August 23rd, I will be starting as a 6th grader at Palmetto Middle School. I'm excited for middle school, but I am very nervous about what will happen if some students do not wear masks. I do not want to have to worry about getting COVID-19 every day and possibly bringing it to my younger sister and family. I think we should all have to wear masks unless it's an opt-out signed by a doctor. A lot of students in Miami-Dade public schools are not old enough to be vaccinated, including me. I don't want to risk my health every day at school, and I don't think any other kids want to either. In conclusion, there should be a mask mandate in Miami-Dade public schools.
Thank you. Thank you. Millie Marquez? Marquez? Millie Marquez? Could she be outside? Dr. Tobena Ubu?
Good afternoon. I have to crouch a little bit.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
You can lift the mic if it's convenient for you.
Thank you.
Yes.
That works. So, my name is Dr. Tobena Ubu, and I'm a physician at Jackson Health System. I specialize in internal medicine and pediatrics, and I'm a member of the Committee of Interns and Residents, CIR. In my role, I take care of both adults and children in the clinic and in the hospital. My only dog in the fight here today is that I take care of children. There's nothing more important to all of us here in the room, whichever side you're on, than the safety and well-being of young people. And as a physician, protecting my young patients is of the highest priority. Working on the front lines of the pandemic, I've seen a lot. I've seen some of my long-term patients who were on the edge get sick with COVID and die. I've seen some of my patients get hospitalized. I've seen kids who had no other medical condition other than being unvaccinated, as less than 12-year-olds are, who have to leave the hospital on oxygen. This is worrisome. The current phase of the pandemic is putting children who can't get vaccinated at risk. In Florida alone, there were 50 new cases of COVID, 50 hospitalizations of children with COVID each day, August 6th to 13th. And now kids make up 15% of new cases of COVID. Resolution 817 would allow parents to opt out and put our children in unacceptable danger. Taking basic steps like masking is a very basic thing that we can do in the schools to help keep our children safe in this deadly pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes? Somebody call me? No?
from here, Madam Chair. My name was called earlier.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
My name was called earlier, Maribel Balbin.
What is your name again?
Maribel Balbin.
Oh, yes. How are you? Good
Hello,
afternoon.
Madam Chair. Good afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, superintendent. I'm here today on behalf of my two grandchildren who are in elementary school and their mother, a teacher at Hialeah Gardens High School. My children were tested positive earlier this year after her mother started teaching in person. This was a trying time for our family, the isolation that we had to have them in, and the danger that my 87-year-old mother was put in by having been around them, not knowing that this happened. I've been watching the dashboards that have been showing up from around the country for the different schools that have started, and it is heartbreaking. The minute the school starts, 3 days later you have 300, the next day you have 400, you have kids with COVID, kids in quarantine, so it becomes a chaos. The mask, we've all heard, and I'm not a medical expert, neither are you. We're all listening to the experts, and the expert said that they work. So I'm here in the belief that you are going to make the right decision. Miami-Dade County has gone through crisis throughout the years, and what we do best is that we come together and we take care of the crisis. This is a crisis, and for that, we do the right thing. That's what Miami-Dade County does for their community, for their children, for those that we are responsible for. You are responsible for the health of my children in school, as well as their education. So I am convinced that there will be an approval of this rule today, and I thank you in advance, and I just recommend that you do not go outside. I feel sorry, I feel very sorry that the people outside, Madam Chair, board members of the board, actually have children. It's a scary group, and I just want to leave it there, and thank you very much for the time, and hope for your vote.
Thank you
ladies.
so much, and it's good to see you. Thank you. We are honored by the former State Senator Dwight Bullard.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you, school board members and superintendent. Dwight Bullard. In my day job, I'm the senior political advisor for a social justice organization. In my, I think, equally important unpaid job, I'm the president of the South Dade NAACP. The reason I bring that up is because 64 years ago today, my predecessor in Little Rock, a woman by the name of Daisy Bates, was preparing 9 children to enter into Little Rock Central High School to vocal opposition around their presence in that school, to vocal opposition at the idea that armed individuals would be protecting those children for as long as it was necessary to protect those children to get the education and get the educational outcomes that they desired. The reason I'm bringing this up and not to create a correlation between clear, egregious acts of civil rights violations and what is happening now, what I'm simply saying is that Daisy Bates understood that the safety of those 9 children was paramount. The educational outcomes of those children were paramount. And despite vocal opposition that we can all argue was on the wrong side of history, she put forward her courage and the courage of those 9 children to do what was right then, and I'm asking and imploring on the school board members here to do what is right now, and more importantly, to be on the right side of history and understanding that the protection and the educational outcomes of our students is something we should all universally agree upon. And my question for you is simply this. We understand that no mask could result in the death of students. We understand that with mask, there may be death, but if mask were to save the one child, is that one child not the most important person in this room right now? And so I'm asking you all to do what Daisy Bates did 64 years ago and be courageous enough to protect our children in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Senator. Thank you. Lisa Conderi Rollins. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Alyssa Kandari Rollins, and I am a former Miami-Dade County public school teacher at Charles Drew Middle and Westview Middle School, and a parent of a K through 12 student who is entering kindergarten on Monday. I know many of you, Lucia, Louisa, Walter, and you know, there are many things we've heard from doctors about the importance of masks, right? I think we can all agree that we're here for one reason, and that is to keep students safe. You know, we've heard from doctors that masks are a simple step, right, to ensure the safety of our children. You know, we'll hear from more doctors that will talk about the students and the children in the ICUs, how there are babies being born with COVID from maternal transmission. This thing does affect children. I have a daughter who is 2 years old. Masks are not harmful. She has been wearing a mask every day at her Montessori pre-K since mid-March. She's able to wear that every day. And we're asking healthcare workers to wear them. We can ask students, right? I'm wearing this, I'm able to talk, I'm able to project. I think we can expect that from people. What I'm most scared of and appalled by is the lack of support, not only for students, but also of teachers. I think we've all seen the news how there have been many deaths in the state of Florida from our teachers contracting COVID. I do not want to read the Miami Herald and see that we are losing our teachers in our own county, right? We have seen this in Palm Beach and Broward. I do not want to see this in my home county. What I'm scared the most about is my daughter, who is 5, entering kindergarten on Monday and potentially contracting COVID from somebody who is not masked. Then she would spread it and bring it home to my daughter, who is 2 years old, and both of them are not yet eligible for eligible for a vaccine. Know that we are lined up once it becomes available, but we have to do everything we can to protect our most vulnerable, and that is kids. They are not eligible yet for the vaccine, and I implore you to do what you can. You are on this commission for a reason. We are entrusting the safety of our whole community to you. Please do the right thing.
Thank you. Claudia Davis. Is Claudia Davis here? Pastor Stephanie Russell. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Pastor Stephanie Russell, Senior Pastor of Our Father's House of Prayer Ministry Church. I am a member of the AACCC, and I am also a community and clergy organizer. I am here in support of the mask mandate. It is our heart's desire to protect all and to defend and to offend none. I believe that mask mandate should be mandatory because of the COVID positivity numbers that are so higher and growing each and every day. COVID is airborne disease. Face coverings are a must when we have so many people unvaccinated and children under 12 without the option of being vaccinated. I want to say these words: prevent the spread, protect the student, and push to safety. I leave with this: take the risk and prevent being at risk. Please consider the life and the legacy of our future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Flora Lindauer. Good afternoon.
Bonsoir. I'm wearing green because I know everybody gonna remember me today. How refreshing it is to stand before you, dear leaders, today, August 18, 2021, because compared to last year, you are not scared. Last year was chaos, and you should not be blamed for it, because this year, you learned that you are not responsible for COVID. COVID came to us all around the world. Dear school board members, we cried together, we made mistakes, we made corrections, and we have the opportunity today, still looking at the green color, to move forward and learning from our mistakes from last year and save our children. When we talk of safety, Nou pense ak Haitien yo. Nou pense ak Panyol yo. Pensamos en los Latinos. Because nobody should blame you for any Delta flying to you today. Because you're gonna block that Delta and fly higher and do what is right and keep saving lives. We applaud you because you cried last year. Last year was chaos, and whatever decision you will make today will not be for you to be right, but to do the right thing, not only for yourself, but for the world and the community watching you. For the children who spoke today, for my children, and for the professors, because Miami-Dade County is never about killing, but about stopping all Delta flight. And we applaud you for that. Remember the green color.
Thank you. With this last speaker, we've exhausted the speakers that were called before, that were recalled again, and also the speakers that were outside. So I believe that we've exhausted our speakers, and now Dr. Gallon is your item, sir.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the Honorable Chair, members of the board, superintendent, administrators, parents, speakers, and members of the listening and engaged public. I am honored, humbled, but more so obligated to present School Board Agenda Item H17. This item addresses matters pertaining to COVID-19 related procedures for notification, quarantine, testing, and facial coverings for the 2021-2022 school year. I would like to thank my co-sponsors of the item in its current form, our Chair, Ms. Perla Tabares-Hampman, Board Member Baez Geller, Board Member Rojas, Board Member Dr. Dorothy Bendros-Mendengal, and Board Member Luisa Santos. First, I would like to thank the board and the superintendent for the leadership, dedication, and deliberation over the past 18 months as our district, as with school districts throughout this nation and other places around the world, dealt with and continue to deal with the destruction, devastation, and death as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Through our collectively courageous and committed efforts, we, as a board and as a school district, have been able to navigate very difficult and troubled waters that threaten the learning and threaten literally the lives of our employees, community stakeholders, and most importantly, our students. Our journey through such turbulence continues as we prepare for the upcoming 2021-22 school year and face a more vicious, deadly Delta variant, which presents increased vulnerabilities for our students, especially our vaccine-ineligible young children, such as my very own 8-year-old daughter. To Dr. Linda Brown, to Dr. Joycelyn Lawrence, to Dr. Benny Rugg, to Dr. Eileen Marty, Dr. Lisa Gwynn, Dr. Adriana Jimenez, Dr. Yasina Balata, and Dr. Peter Page. Your unwavering, dedicated, and resolute services to this district, community, and our students are truly, truly appreciated. You have continuously provided a leveled, pragmatic, intellectual, scientific, and data-driven focus and hand to matters that have continuously endeavored to debunk science at the expense of the health, safety, and welfare of our employees and students. Your prepared and unapologetic rejection of such notions make each of you heroes to this district, this community, and to our students. Next, I would like to thank the speakers who came out to share your thoughts, your ideas, and your concerns. What has become a very highly concerning, often contentious, and politically divisive issue. I choose to view your comments and concerns as a reflection of your passion, your compassion, and your commitment to your children, no matter what side of the issue you stand. I choose to view this as a matter of ideas, a matter of convictions, and in some cases, ideologies that have inevitably converged and conflicted. A convergence and conflict that are manifested at the local, state, and national levels. In this place today, we are here to square the most fundamental duties and obligations that we have as a board. Number one, to protect the lives, health, and safety of our students and employees. Number two, respect the role and rights of parents on either side of what has been the most contentious issue. And number three, follow the law, the edicts that come from the state, but also those. We've talked a lot about what comes from the state most recently, but we have an obligation to honor and protect those that represent the fulcrum of this state's constitution. You see, I don't believe any district across this state seeks to bring harm to students, deny parents, or break any rule or law. This is a charge that should be easy, as one would expect that those with authority, duty, and responsibility at every level of government, leadership, and service would be aligned. Aligned in passion, aligned in promise, and aligned in purpose when it comes to the health and safety of our children and employees, support for all parents, and compliance with the rules and law. The law speaks to compliance with certain orders governing the supervision of schools. But again, the law also speaks to an unwavering obligation and duty to honor and abide by the Constitution. I submit and fully believe that those who declare that prudent, pragmatic actions intended to ensure the health, welfare, and safety of employees and students run contrary to law, that they do so from a place of honor. I believe they do so from a place of integrity. I feel that they do so from a place of nobility. Who would dare to argue against a parent's right to choose? But such argument should not be circumscribed to one group of parents over another. Each has rights. It is our duty at the local level to square these issues and end up in a place that serves the interests of our employees and students, and in this instance, save lives. However, this has become, as once again affirmed through many of the statements and comments from now over 80 speakers, a seemingly intractable issue. Yet, it is one that I continue to believe in the better part of our spirit, the better part of our shared humanity, the better part of our shared purpose, of our wedding to the foundation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which reflects the two bases as physiological and safety needs above all that we have as human beings. Despite my deep sense of hope and optimism that we can rise above the intractable place we find ourselves and lean into the reality of the decision we must make regarding the health, the wellness, and safety of our employees, and most important, our students. Colleagues, thus we are at this place which has been preceded by questions about whether we are fearful, questions about whether or not we dread leaning into our obligation as elected officers and district leaders. What are our political alliances and motivations? We have been bookended between whether or not we protect and provide for the health, wellness, and safety of our children, or whether we comply with an emergency rule, which parenthetically has a lifespan of 90 days. The tens of thousands of people tested positive for COVID, and the people that have died, including a 13-year-old, are depending on us to stand, to speak, to lead, and to vote in a matter that does not capitulate to political pressures, but rely on the empirical, scientific evidence and advice that should guide our decision-making on this medically driven problem and rest on a medically driven, scientific-based solution. Thus, I believe that this board must be resolute in its commitment to science and data-driven decision-making, and that this board must be convicted in courage. We must be convicted in competence. Each of us must be convicted in compassion as it relates to the decisions that it makes on behalf of our students. And lastly, not succumb to partisan collegiality. So after hearing from the members of the community, the employees of the district, the parents of students on both sides of this issue, both sides, and the compelling evidence presented by our panel of medical experts whose work and lives and devotion are to protecting and ensuring the health, the welfare, and safety of human life, as not only a policymaker, but as a parent of a young child in this district, I would like to respectfully amend School Board Agenda Item 817 as follows. Specifically, recommend to update the implementation of the board policies granting the superintendent the authority to control communicable diseases and the spread of COVID-19 by authorizing the superintendent to temporarily require, based on local positivity rates, facial coverings for all students, except those with medically endorsed or religious accommodations, as defined in Florida State Statute 1003.22. In addition, the requirement shall apply to all employees, contractors, and visitors while inside MDCPS school buildings and while all students are on buses. The superintendent shall continuously review and assess local positivity rates and use such data and related information to modify and/or discontinue any established protocols and/or requirements for facial coverings. A written update shall be provided to the board on any modifications to protocols and/or requirements for facial coverings on a weekly basis. And to add, recommend 9, provide weekly, monthly, or periodic reporting to the school board and State Board of Education on any related matters determined to be non-compliant by the State Board of Education on a weekly, monthly, or periodic basis as may be necessary and/or required pursuant to Florida State Statute 1008.32. I would respectfully request a second to the amendment to this item and follow up with discussion.
Second.
Thank you.
Is it in 1 second, sir? I have board members to speak. Dr. Benjamin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I speak from my scripted notes, I want to thank my Vice Chair, Dr. Steve Gallo III, for going a little deeper, or not deeper, to make this. I thought you heard me. Yes, you did. That's why you told me microphone. Thank you. What about now? Thank you. To our vice chair, thank you for your research, your conversations with others, especially the health team. I want to say to you that this board item gives a robust summation of the facts surrounding the dilemma about the topic of discussion. This item stands on the facts and truths based on what the medical professionals have reported. There are timelines, percentages, and a plethora of data to support the need for this item. Most importantly, this item fights our human urges for connection. After nearly 16 months of isolation, naturally, children as well as adults are eager with anticipation to return to brick and mortar campuses across Miami-Dade County. They want to reunite and start what they believe will be a new and exciting school year. While this is commendable, it is not very practical, and as the days pass, may be ill-advised. This item forces us to make painfully clear that we are not alone and we are not ill-advised by our medical team. The crescendo of the item, the safety protocols and cautionary tales of other school districts who have experienced an unfavorable outcome at their attempt at the new normal make this item legit, timely, and very necessary. Again, thank you, Dr. Steve Gallen III. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Baez-Gallo?
Thank you so much. And I echo the sentiments of all my colleagues here. It is extremely unfortunate that the issue of protecting our students has become so politicized in this day and age. And as we've seen over the last few weeks, school districts around the state, including our own, have been under attack by the governor, the State Board of Education, Commissioner of Education, and so many others for us trying to do what we were elected to do, which is protect our students. So with that being said, though, I want to thank the thousands of parents that reached out, the elected officials that reached out, the community members who have communicated and who have asked us to protect our kids. I do want to read a quick excerpt from a parent that couldn't be here today, and I told her I'd honor her, but she echoes all of our sentiments. She's a mother of a child with underlying medical conditions, and she says, we all want the same thing, our children to be safe. The only way we can do this is to follow the science, and we should all come together as a united front. And our schools did great last year, and we should not fix what's broken. That's the essence of what she was saying. I promised her I'd say that. But I do want to thank everybody here, the task force members, the superintendent, and we, as everyone has said, should not allow ourselves to be scared by the governor's threats. We have a duty, therefore, I'm in support of the recommendations of the ad hoc committee. I support the positions the superintendent has been taking, and I support this amendment. I thank you, Dr. Gallen, for it, and I think it's the best choice right now for our students' health and safety, and I would ask my colleagues to please also support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baez-Gallo. Ms. Santos?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. And I really thank you, Dr. Gallen, as I did at committee, for your bringing of this item. I am certainly in agreement with a lot of what you said today. I thank you for taking into account the friendly amendment I suggested in committee. And if you could please begin by restating the amendment, I think that would be helpful. I know a lot of people don't have a copy.
Yes, through the chair. The amendment is to update the implementation of the board policies granting the superintendent authority to control communicable diseases and the spread of COVID-19 by authorizing the superintendent to temporarily require based on local positivity rates. We have struck out explore the feasibility of requiring facial coverings for all students. Underscore except those with medically endorsed or religious accommodations as defined in state statute 1003.22. In addition, the requirement shall apply to all employees, contractors, and visitors while inside MDCPS school buildings and while all students are on school buses. The superintendent shall continuously review and assess local positivity rates and use such data and related information to modify and/or discontinue any established protocols and/or requirements for facial coverings. A written update shall be provided to the school board on any modifications to protocols and/or requirements for facial coverings on a weekly basis. Taken out, line through, except for students whose parents exercise their right to affirmatively elect not to have their child wear facial coverings in school. That has been stricken from the original item. Number 9 has been added, provide weekly, monthly, or periodic reporting to the school board and State Board of Education on any related matters determined to be non-compliant by the State Board of Education on a weekly, monthly, or periodic basis as may be necessary and/or required pursuant to Florida Statute 1008.32. And I want to say parenthetically, that particular statute stipulates how any determination relative to non-compliance shall be handled. So they have appropriate steps relative to due process, relative to responding, relative to updates, relative to any conflicts that may exist between the school board at the local level and the State Board of Education. So as they may be required or determined or appropriate, that information will be provided accordingly. Thank you, Ms. Santos. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gallen. Through the chair, I certainly have been following the situation closely, as I mentioned last week in committee. I gave the example of Homestead Hospital having 0 ICU beds available. This is my community and a community that I was elected to protect and give a safe learning environment to under Article 9 of the Constitution, which I swore to uphold. So in evaluating the Parents' Bill of Rights, and I do echo the sentiment and thank every single parent who came here, every student, every teacher who came and voiced their opinions and their concerns, I do believe that we have a compelling state interest, given the public health crisis that we are in, particularly to our students, parents, and families, and certainly requiring masks with a medical opt-out is a narrowly tailored action that is reasonable and necessary to address the public health crisis that we find ourselves in. As written, the amendment, and I'm trying to review it because there are some significant changes that I didn't necessarily prepare to address, but I think in listening to our medical experts and understanding what they shared, plus the additional research that I and my team have certainly been doing, as written, it is clear that there are people like Crystal Giraldo's son, Julian, who have to have an exception. We are compelled to do right by Diana Abril's 5-year-old, who cannot wear a mask for a medical reason. And I believe that in this moment, to protect our children under the current conditions, and I appreciate your amendment to review these on an ongoing basis and the cadence in which we will, the only opt-out that I can support in this moment is a medical opt-out, not the additional ones that are stated in the amendment as written. So I think we align on most of what is being discussed, and certainly I know we have to take a vote on the amendment as written, and I can certainly vote in a way that I think is appropriate and proffer an amendment separate to that if that is what is necessary.
Yes, Dr. Gallen.
Yes, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And Board Member Santos, I appreciate your feedback, and absolutely your thoughts and your contemplations were reflected here. I just want to say for the record that the language of opting out is not contemplated in this amendment, and there are only two accommodations that have been contemplated and reflected in here that are defined in State Statute 1003.22. So a provision for opting out is not included in this amendment at all. We don't utilize that particular language. It's not an opt-out. It's a medically endorsed provision, and there are only two cited in State Statute 1003.22. So there are not several, there are just two.
Thank you so much for that clarification. And through the chair, as written, yes, we are not using that language of opt-out. Thank you for clarifying that. And I certainly can be in agreement with that. Facial coverings for all students except those with, and there are two stated. And I can only support one.
Okay. Follow-up, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you, Ms. Santos. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Santos. I'm clear. There are two stated, medical and religious. And so I just want to be clear for the record. I appreciate your comment, and I respect your perspective. I've gotten feedback from members of the various communities, and as I did some research relative to what provisions can be contemplated, I wanted to look at those that are outlined in state statute. There's been a broad discourse around what the law stipulates. We all have the opportunity, not we as in this board, but we hear about the law from everyone else. There are some provisions outlined in law that we can contemplate to address some of these issues. But again, this is the amendment. I'm up to hearing from other colleagues, and I definitely appreciate your support, at least on the initial one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Navarro?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to begin by framing, I think, the conversation, which really I feel has not been really framed in the matter that is before us, unfortunately. And I want to thank all the speakers, begin by thanking all the speakers on both sides and everyone who has written emails for mandatory masking and also for parental choice, which is something that I strongly feel I will always be here for. I've had the opportunity and honor to serve on this board since 2015, and should be no surprise to anyone who has heard me and who has walked with me and know that I represent in my district about 330,000 residents and families of students in the largest growing area in the county, as we will see in redistricting, but also the honor to represent everyone countywide. As a student of Miami-Dade County Public Schools, an alumni, a parent of a child who entirely attended Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and a parent who exercised parental choice in every decision I made for my child. With that force, I took the oath of office on February 20th, 2015, upon being appointed to serve on the school board, because I believe in the parents' right to choose in public education. As a parent, I made and exercised that choice with the best choice I knew, which was public schools for my daughter. But within that, I exercised choice, never sending her to her home school for the 12 years of her schooling, and I'm very proud of that. When I had the opportunity to knock on doors twice, now just recently being reelected, actually today, a year from today, at 7:30 p.m., I was reelected for a second term on the school board. And in the midst of the pandemic, yes, in March, there was no fear. I went out to my community and talked to parents as students were isolated, who were homebound because of what was happening in our community. And I again reasserted my position, which I will reassert today, and I do not waver. I do not waver, and I will never waver under no pressure. You see, my beliefs will never be compromised in a 360 change of a position in an amendment that was just thrown at us right here on the dais. I don't waver that way. I don't waver that way. Those of you that know me, I will be in the fire, and I will stand my ground on my position. No pressure, no threat have I felt. This is a very simple matter that is before us. there is a matter before us that we have not talked about. Just yesterday at 4 o'clock, the State Board of Education met. And at that agenda meeting, which I know everybody was watching, the State Board was here today, very close, but yesterday, in an emergency meeting, DOE met and had 2 items on the agenda: Broward County Public Schools and Alachua County. And guess why they were on the agenda? They were on the agenda because they violated state law. Now, I drive on the turnpike. I like to drive 70, but the law says you have to go 60, right? And so my job up here as a constitutional officer of the state of Florida, I always say this, and many of you have heard me say this, I don't make the laws. I only make school board policy. I don't make the laws that are dictated by Tallahassee, the legislature, which passed the Parents' Bill of Rights, which is now state law. And at the committee meeting last week, I brought up the issue as that item came, and I have co-sponsored H7, which is Board Member Rojas's item, which will in fact promulgate rulemaking to enact the very same things that we're talking about now that some of us now don't want to support. But in another item, there's co-sponsors saying that parents have the rights that are now promulgated in state law, which is the subject of this very discussion. So the item before us is H17, but there's another item intertwined on this agenda that deals exactly with what parents are asking for. I have a right to choose how I send my child to school, and I respect that. I respect that today. I respect that yesterday. I respect that when my daughter was born. I will respect that for every parent in Miami-Dade County Public Schools who choose to make this their choice. And I'm honored that you stay with us. And that is why I am here today to not only exert my position again, because I don't waver, I fight the fire. Now, yesterday, in the State Board of Education, again, I said there were 2 school districts that were on the agenda. Guess what was the outcome of that hearing, of that embarrassing hearing? Because they violated state law. My constituents of District 7 never elected me to violate the law. Never. So I stood right here with a circuit court judge, and I raised my right hand. And I said that I would uphold the Constitution. The Constitution of the state of Florida, in the 1968 revision to the Constitution, says in a matter of this legal nature, where there's conflicts between the state and other constitutional bodies, the governor is the supreme executive. Governor Ron DeSantis issued Executive Order 21-175, and an executive order is effective immediately, not only enacting the Parental Bill of Rights legislation that became effective July 1st, but also directing the Department of Health. And I want to thank our ad hoc committee, and I want to thank my appointment, Dr. Eileen Marty, who I have the highest respect for. But their opinion, professional, is an advisory opinion and recommendations to us and to the superintendent. The governor of the state of Florida directed the Department of Health, Surgeon General Ripke's, the highest authority, not the ad hoc committee, the highest authority in the state of Florida's health, responsible for the health of the entire state, 67 counties where 67 school boards rely, directed him in an emergency order, which those 2 school districts, to establish the protocols mandating that parents have a right to opt out, not because their child has special needs. And I was appalled as a mother of a child with special needs in this school district that they would undermine when another task member brought up the issue about special needs. I will never undermine a parent or a child with special needs, and I want to thank the parents, actually, who live in District 9 but attend school in District 7, who emailed me countless emails of parents with disabilities, because that is why I'm also here, to fight for those rights of children whose parents know what they go through and want options. So the executive order directed the Surgeon General, not a doctor, the Surgeon General of the state of Florida, over the Department of Health of Florida, who is the governing body of all health issues in the state, to enact this. I would be remiss, knowing the Surgeon General, that he would do something to harm the health of the state. So yesterday in the State Board of Education, those two school districts who violated state law were on the record having violated the law right now as it is in Florida. And my job is not to make the laws. That's Tallahassee. That's the legislature. And thank you to the elected officials that were here. That's your responsibility. If you supported the Parents' Bill of Rights, this is the law now. If you didn't, you can go back and change the law. And then we get dictated what the law is. And the rulemaking, our governing body is the State Board of Education as a school district. We have to follow that. It's not whether I want to drive 70 or 60. The law says this is what you have to do. So those two school districts yesterday were found to have probable cause for violating the law. I will not give my name, and I will not put my name to any item, to any amendment that, in my opinion, and not just my opinion, because I know the law, but also I want to thank our school board attorney, who I was the school board member on Sunday evening, who requested a legal opinion. Why? Because Broward County Public Schools, in light of the fact that their general counsel, just as our general counsel has told us that item H17 as presented, except with the amendment that it has now received a second, which I was ready to support because option 2 provided a parental option for parents to opt out. That's consistent, and I asked them that on the record. That was consistent with the law. That was consistent with the emergency order. That was consistent with the rulemaking by DOH and DOE that is going to take place. So the attorney has opined. Many of you that are listening and that are not here may not have the opportunity to have this copy, which is a public record. I wanted the opinion on the item as is. The item as is now, as it's been amended in second, which I will not support, violates state law. Violates state law, and it would be shameful to see our school district before DOE and our superintendent on the stand, as I heard those two superintendents yesterday. Yes, our superintendent on the stand, having to defend why we were breaking the law. My job is to follow the law. I agree that we have to continue to evaluate the conditions. All these other things are good because things are changing. But the law has to be dictated to us. I'm responsible for making school board policy and for following school board policy and for following the laws of the state of Florida and the governing body of the State Board of Education. We cannot pick and choose whether we want to exempt people for medical reasons or for religious reasons. That's not an option under the law. It's not an option to pick and choose which one of those two concerns validates one or the other. We'll have another opportunity, and those same people who are changing this amendment have co-sponsored H7, saying we support Parents' Bill of Rights. So in the face of the argument, you are inconsistent. You can't support one without giving the parents the rights that are now duly enacted and have created Florida statute. Let me read it to you. Florida statute 1014-01, which is the Parents' Bill of Rights. I did co-sponsor H7, and at that time, when we were a committee, I told my colleagues, in light of the conversation of what we're going to be facing about this issue of mandating facial coverings, we're going to have to take in consideration the Parents' Bill of Rights. And in every conversation at DOE and DOH and at the state level, which we have to follow, those two are intertwined. Those two are intertwined. Yet there is no mention on revised H-17 or amended about Parents' Bill of Rights, to my knowledge. I don't see the line. So it'll be interesting, those of you watching, to see what happens in H-7 and now H-17, because you can't separate the two. It's state law. So I cannot support the amendment because I am not going to sit here and violate state law. Until the law changes, my job, my fiduciary duty as a constitutional officer of the state of Florida, who raised her right hand and said that I would follow the law. My constituents do not want me to break the law, and I will not break the law. So you could choose and pick what you want to support, but we have to comply with the law. We may not agree with it. I, as a parent, may want to send my child with a mask. That's your right. And guess what? Knowing me personally, I would probably send my own child, if she was still in school, with a mask. That's my choice because I consulted with the pediatrician. I know the medical condition. I have read the science. I have made a determination. I, as a parent, I am the strongest voice in our public education system. I've always said that. And no one can know what is better for their child than a parent. And that is my fundamental belief, and I will not waver. I will not waver at a last-minute amendment on the dais. So I will not be supporting the item as is. And I hope parents understand why I believe they're the strongest voice. There is no pressure. I have always been consistent with what I believe in, and I will continue to believe this till the day I'm here. I am here, and I've always said this, for our parents. And I will always be here for our parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Navarro. Yes, Dr. Gallo, and then Ms. Rojas.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just want to provide a response relative to the context of how things are done. Some language was used as an amendment is thrown upon the board. There's a process that we go through. An amendment can be made only in this particular context. So to the extent that this board member was prepared and handed out copies of something that was well thought out, well contemplated, well researched, I reject the notion that that was thrown on the board. What I would have been left to do is read from an individual paper, and my colleagues and the superintendent and the attorney would have been at a disadvantage trying to follow what I'm reading, but they can't see. So I want to say that parenthetically. Secondly, I think it's important for the listening public to understand the process. There's a timeline for submission of board items. That timeline was a Thursday. The Friday morning, when my item, obviously our items were in, the Friday morning, the State Board of Education met and established some parameters and guidelines. Ironically, my initial item comported with what they came out with. I was asked questions about how did it line up so well. That's paying attention to the three competing interests: health and safety, parental rights, and compliance with law and rules. So subsequent to that item being published, the next opportunity you have to discuss it would be in committee. We had committee, feedback was provided, co-sponsorship of the item in its current form was achieved. Then subsequent to that, medical experts review. So as additional information evolves, as additional feedback is provided, parent contact, emails, stakeholders, you make some modifications or you contemplate an amendment. So there you have it. The amendment was contemplated through that process. There was no other mechanism or platform by which it could be made. I don't apologize for having my amendment typed up, copied, and prepared for distribution to my colleagues to have an opportunity to consider it. I appreciate the fact that the amendment was seconded. I also embrace a spirit of communication and collegiality. And with that being said, I, at the appropriate time, will be removing the second accommodation that was indicated because that was not a part of the medical expert process that was engaged. And I was reminded about the enforcement as a former principal, former administrator, former superintendent. I think if we're going to make a distinction between science and other things, we have to make a distinction between science and religion. So at the appropriate time, Madam Chair, to the request of my colleague, Ms. Santos, I will be recommending the removal of religious and stick with the medical contemplation that has been discussed and has been verified through our medical experts at the appropriate time. Thank you. And I hope to have your support once that's done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Rojas?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. First and foremost, I want to start off by thanking all of the parents who have taken the time to come to this school board meeting today to express their concerns. I also want to thank all of the parents, the students, and stakeholders who have expressed their concerns via emails regarding the COVID-19 protocols. All of these are emails that I have received, and I have tried to respond to all of them. So thank you, because it is imperative that we as a board listen very carefully to the concerns that are raised by the families that we represent. Since the genesis of the COVID-19 pandemic, this school board and the superintendent have prioritized health, safety, and well-being of our students and of our entire workforce in order for us to reopen schools in a safe and smart manner, which we actually did last year. We have received guidance now from the Ad Hoc Public Health and Medical Experts Task Force, recommendations from the Centers for Disease Control and local health department. It is very unfortunate that we thought things were finally getting better. I actually said at graduation, I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel. However, a paradigm shift took place due to the Delta variant, where more significant implications for children became evident. Pediatric cases and hospitalizations have increased, according to the Miami-Dade County, moving to a new normal daily dashboard of August 16, 2021. The total number of PCR confirmed cases had also increased to 16,641 in 1 week, from 15,786 in the previous week. On average, there was an increase of approximately 122 cases every day. The Florida Department of Health has reported that for PCR confirmed cases, the median age is 37 years of age. The range is from 1 to 102 years of age. 14.1% are children, ages 5 through 17. 27.8% are young adults, ages 18 to 34 years. 47.9% of cases are male, and Hispanic cases account for close to 70% of all new cases. These numbers fluctuate daily, and at times the number have been very alarming. Today, Hillsborough had an emergency meeting due to the fact that they have had to quarantine over 10,000. According to School Board Policy 8453, control of communicable diseases provide the following. During times of elevated communicable disease, community spread, the superintendent shall issue periodic guidance and directives aligned with recommendations of public health officials and applicable guidance and orders. During an outbreak of these communicable disease, this can be transmitted by casual contact or in a respiratory or airborne manner. The superintendent's directives may include mandatory protocols, including but not limited to physical distancing, facial coverings, and other protective measures. The superintendent has announced that he concurs with the recommendations made by the medical task force based on the most recent data that they provided at the Zoom meeting of August 18, 2021. I have had many sleepless nights about the reopening of our schools, as I want our students and our staff to be safe and sound. My concern, just like my colleagues on the board, has always been and will continue to be ensuring the health and the safety of our students and of our workforce. This is well documented throughout the years. Where I stand on this issue changes as we see the numbers much higher than they were 2 weeks ago. I am a constitutional officer, and pursuant to Florida Statute 1001.42, powers and duties of the district school board under student welfare, section 8A, and I quote, in accordance with the provisions of chapter 1003 and 1006, provide for the proper attention to health, safety, and other matters relating to the welfare of our students. I am constantly worrying about the students and about our workforce as they start every year a new year. While all the preventive strategies this school district will take may not be 100% safe, it is certainly a very important start. The one thing that I do not want to hear is that Miami-Dade County Public School Board did not consider the health and the safety of our students and our workforce. I think about what could happen if one child is infected with a virus and succumbs to this horrible pandemic. How would we feel? Whether it is one child or 5 or 10, one child is too many. Currently, due to the unprecedented rise in COVID-19 cases, due to the Delta variant among unvaccinated and in some breakthrough cases of vaccinated individuals, and fulfilling my commitment to ensure the health and the safety and the well-being of our students and workforce, I have decided that to temporarily agree to start the 2021 year with mandatory masking with a provision of those weekly updates to determine how soon we can provide the option of masks to parents. It is imperative, once again, for us to remember that parental choice is important, in my opinion, very important. But right now, we are dealing with a health crisis. And that is why, on a temporary basis, based on the recommendations for the changes given by my colleague, Dr. Steve Gallen III, whom I thank for taking the initiative to bring this item forth, I fully support the item as amended, again, with the provisions that are stated here very clearly, and on a weekly basis that we continue to monitor and assess very closely the current numbers that exist, and hopefully, as we move forward, and as I have heard some physicians state, we are hopefully going to reach the peak of this pandemic within the next couple of weeks. Nobody has a crystal ball, so we don't know if that's accurate, but that is apparently the consensus from several physicians that work in this arena. And hopefully at that point, our numbers will improve, and our children who have had to endure so much throughout this pandemic, because these boys and girls, as well as our teachers and our workforce, have had to deal with social isolation. And our DNA is not. That is not something that is part of our DNA. We are meant to socialize. We are meant to be with people. Our children are meant to be in schools with their teachers, with their friends, with their peers. And due to the conditions that existed, and they were not able to do so for a very long time, we are now going to be dealing with many new challenges, including all of the mental health scenarios that have been addressed here today on more than one occasion, so that they can proceed to excel academically. And therefore, again, I thank you, Dr. Gallen, for making the changes, and God willing, we will be able to go back to some sense of normalcy in a near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rojas. Yes, Dr. Gallen?
Yes, Madam Chair, just very quickly, a quick housekeeping. Pursuant to Robert Rules of Order, I would like to strike out the religious accommodations and leave it for the medically endorsed accommodations. If the board member that seconded, which was Bias Geller, agrees, then that will come out if I get her agreement on the record. Okay, yes, thank you for the record. She has agreed, so it reads, except those with medically endorsed accommodations, period. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, I believe the student advisor
Madam
has
Chair.
raised her hand, certainly.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It is at this time that I'd truly like to express my gratitude for the individuals who did speak on this item, but more specifically the students. For the few of you who actually did have the opportunity to state your opinions, I can honestly say that not only the statements that were given, but also the nonverbal cues given from the students who are in the audience, we can truly see the consistencies and the beliefs that they also understand the importance of the mask mandates in schools. Because just like Ms. Rojas just mentioned, everyone wants to go back to this state of normalcy. We all don't want to wear a mask, but at this moment, we do understand the importance of it. So that is something that I do want to address. And just to give the students perspectives, because not only the students in this auditorium or this room have been seen and have been noted, but also the students that I've had conversations with in the past. They do understand the importance of the mask mandate, and that is something that I do want to say, that they understand the pragmaticism of it, and that they are in agreement as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Perez? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would like to thank every single solitary parent, community member who came to us and have shared stories that are so compelling and have shared their ideas. And we honor you and we thank you. It is not inconsistent to vote for a parent's Bill of Rights, especially this Bill of Rights, and to also have reservations about the mask mandate. That is not inconsistent. These, when the United States was formed, Pilgrims and Puritans lived in an agrarian society where they lived on farms, and parents had could do anything they wanted with their children. However, as cities became formed and as the Industrial Revolution caused parents to have to rely more on schools. When a child has to attend a school, there are certain conditions that are up to, when they are united, there are certain things that school districts and the state may do. In the Parents' Bill of Rights, where it says about parental consent for medical treatments, even though the parents have most of the rights, they don't have all of the rights, even in this document that this state has just passed. It says parents generally have the right to be informed about and give consent for proposed medical procedures on their children. However, the state also has an obligation to ensure that children receive reasonable medical treatments that is necessary for the preservation of life. Parents have rights, but there are times when a compelling reason is pronounced where the school boards and the local decision makers must make certain decisions. I don't doubt for 1 minute that the Surgeon General has the best interest of the people of Florida, but I also think that perhaps there are certain areas in Florida that are not as affected as our areas are currently. I think that the fact that we have the local health experts here who have told us with no uncertain terms how important it is that we require this, and they are not guaranteeing anything. A mask, we understand that a mask does not guarantee anything. As a matter of fact, one of the arguments that is made often is that a mask, there is no research on masks. By the way, when my colleagues say that they have been thinking about this, spending endless nights, sleepless nights, me too. For the last 2 weeks, this has consumed me. And the research that I have tried, because I want to do what is right for everyone, the first masks, I don't know if any of you have gone into the research this far. The first masks were created by a physician in 1910, a physician in China. And it was during a virus, the Manchurian virus, that was affecting a region in China. And since then, other viruses, particularly in Asia, have used, the populations have used masks and mask mandates in order to try and control the different viruses that have ensued. And there is perhaps the best argument, I suppose, for masks, because it's very difficult to research on masks, because people will take them off and will say, I'm wearing them, and it's hard to control the controls of a research study on masks. They said that the countries in Asia use during the same epidemics, that the countries that used masks versus the countries that did not use masks, the countries that used masks were 7.5 times more able to combat the viruses than the countries that did not use masks. So that is compelling evidence. It's that there is something to that protection. It is not all, but there is something to that protection. I believe that we are following what the governor is asking us, because we do have the option, as Dr. Gallen has put on here, if there is a medical endorsement, that the child may be able to opt out. I think that in that regard, I heard the arguments too. I heard all the arguments of the State Board of Education. I thought that some of the things that were said by the superintendent of Alachua are correct, that they were allowing the options, which is part of what the governor's asking for. I think that it would be prudent, Dr. Gallen, in the first one, number 2, you asked for to ask the superintendent for a feasibility, not necessarily to go ahead and implement, but if this is the will of the board, I can support it. I think that these were the same recommendations that the superintendent made, and I don't see why we need to have the item, but given that it is before the board and the majority of the board is in favor, I don't have a problem with that. And I do concur with Ms. Rojas that obviously, and all the board members, none of us want to have our students masked. It's a pain to wear a mask. I realize that. That said, I have 3 grandchildren, ages 5, 7, and 12. Of course, I have asked them. They are required to wear a mask all during the summer vacation when they went to all their little all their little camps. And I've asked all 3, do you mind wearing the mask? And none of the 3, this is anecdotal, of course, none of the 3 really minded, even the 5-year-old. So I realize that's an anecdote about my own grandkids, and that some children will have and have, as expressed, perhaps some medical issues, and that is, of course, something that we embrace. We are in a very, very difficult position, this board, because we are, on the one hand, wanting in every way to be pleasing to our governor. But on the other hand, we are listening to our medical experts on the field here in Miami-Dade. And it is too high a risk. The stakes are too high for us not to do everything that we can to ensure the safety of our children. Now, also, I would like to thank our attorney, Mr. Harvey, for the very comprehensive report that you gave and answering Ms. Navarro's request. And it's too bad, and as she said, as Ms. Navarro said, this is online for anyone who would like to hear it. It's too long for us to read it, but she requested a legal opinion on the effect of the Florida Department of Education and the health emergency order issued by the governor. And among the things that Mr. Harvey tells us and instructs us is the part that says home rule powers. And with your indulgence, since people don't have this on hand, I'd like to read it's 2 paragraphs, I'm sorry. I usually try to be very short. Even though the declaration of the state of emergency for COVID-19 expired, it does not eliminate the fact that Miami-Dade County is still required to address the threat of the health and safety of its citizens resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. Accordingly, school districts still have the responsibility to take appropriate measures to ensure the safety and welfare of their students. The school board, pursuant to its home rule powers as prescribed under blah blah, shall operate, control, and supervise all free public educations in their respective districts and may exercise any power except as expressly prohibited by the state constitution or general law. Although the EQ and the DOH and the DOE, the emergency rules that emanated from the EQ seek to prevent mandatory masks for students, these rules do not appear to have been properly promulgated as required by law. It follows that any action by the board to require masks should not be viewed as being contrary to the law. And he goes on further, but I think that will be suffice for me. So I realize how very difficult this has been for all of those of you, and I thank all of those of you who are here and have spoken. I want to thank our superintendent for his amazing professionalism and having tried in many, many ways to do what is best. I thank him for appearing before the state board today. And I want to thank the board members because I think we're all trying to do what is in the best interest of everyone. And as I say, I don't see that this is in any way contrary to what the superintendent is recommending. But I suppose that this conversation was something. I want to thank Dr. Gallen because it is something that gave the community the opportunity to come and let us know how strongly they feel. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to speak. I'd like to call the question, Madam Chair, and request a roll call vote on the item.
No, I missed Dr. Navarro. I haven't been able to speak, and I would like to be able to make a statement.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for allowing me.
Madam Chair, just thank you, Dr. Perez, for your comments. I truly appreciate that and the feedback. And again, for the record, to correct, the second was made by Dr. Dorothy Bendross Mendengal on the amendment. And if you agree to the removal of the word religious, for the record, that will be removed from the amendment as indicated.
Second.
Thank you. Just want to follow up, Dr. Perez. I know there's been, for the listening public, a lot of discourse relative to the school board. If you look at the state statute, and I concur, our superintendent and administration have done a tremendous job in terms of leading us through these particular processes, but the statute is very, very clear, 1008.32. At the end of the day, the state board provides oversight and supervision and engagement with the local school board. So at the end of the day, out of the four indicators, it references the school board. So that is why it has been critically important that the board addresses this particular issue from a statutory standpoint and ultimately from an accountability standpoint. So I just want to clarify that for the record. There's been a lot of discussion around that, but the statute is very, very clear as it relates to the level of engagement with the State Board of Education relative to supervision and accountability. They don't supervise the superintendent, the school board does, but they supervise the local school districts, and if there's any conflict between the State Board of Education, that conflict will be between the local school board. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record, and that's why this item is before us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Gallen. I just, as I always do, I'm the last to speak, and I would like to, with your indulgence, just make my statement or say a few words. As the chair of this board and as a member of the school board since 1996, I have always taken seriously my responsibility to provide for the safety of our schools and to vote in a manner which I believe provides for the best interests of the children we serve. to the best interest of our staff and the best interest of our school district. I have never avoided difficult issues. As you may all know, I have always wanted to carefully consider matters, do my own research and my due diligence. I'm never influenced by anyone or anything that would want to change my state of mind. Since the beginning of this pandemic, I have been guided by science and by the local conditions here in our community. That was the case last year when we delayed opening in-person schooling until October. And that is the case now when our local pediatric ICUs are at capacity and we are faced with a highly transmissible virus variant. That is not opinion, that is fact. Our experts in science tells us that the best protections for all includes a layered strategy of mitigating factors, including social distancing, enhanced sanitation, good ventilation, vaccinations for those who are eligible, and face coverings while indoors. And while I am a very, very strong advocate, I've always have been for parental choice, what we are facing in our community is a public health emergency where lives are at risk. One child we lose is one child too many. And so, as a mother, as a grandmother, and as a member, a proud member of the school board for 25 years, I must vote my conscience and do what I have always tried to do, and that is to protect the best interests of all children and our staff who educate them. I support the recommendation of our medical and public health task force and the amendment of our vice chair, Dr. Steve Gallen, and the superintendent that at this time, as a result of our local condition, it is necessary for the health and safety of our students and staff to implement a mandatory mask policy with appropriate accommodations for those children or individuals who for medical or safety reasons cannot safely wear a face covering. At such time as conditions in our community change, I know that the superintendent and certainly this board will reevaluate these safety protocols because we all want nothing more than to see our children happy, healthy, and thriving in our schools. And that is why I'm taking this action today and expressing my opinion, and that is why I am standing with my colleagues that have expressed their opinion on this way, and the superintendent, and across the state. Thank you, board members. I just wanted to clarify something that was mentioned before, that yes, we did support H17 item, the item we're discussing now, as it appears in the agenda. I was one of the co-sponsors. But it was a reference that was made that we could not support both the original item and now the amendment. In my opinion, it's a little bit incorrect, I would say. The original item was discussed a week ago, Wednesday, at our committee meetings. The situation of a week ago has changed. More cases of COVID-19, and the meeting of our health experts last Monday, who unanimously supported a mask mandate, at least in the beginning of the school year, until conditions change. And we will be looking at this all the time, every week, and we will be looking at sea of ways to be able to change this if conditions improve. Thank you very much, board member. Thank you so much. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I would just like to clarify, I was referencing, Madam Chair, item H7, the other item, not specifically H17, but H7, which is coming up later on the agenda, which is the Parents' Bill of Rights, that if this item is H17 is now inconsistent with item H7 in that action. So that was what I wasn't referencing H17.
Dr. Romero, I never mentioned your name. I never said who said what.
No.
I just wanted to clear the record, that's all. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I called the question and would request a roll call vote on the item.
Yes. The question?
I called the question, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
I called the question, Madam Chair, and would like to request a roll call vote on the item. As
Second.
amended.
Superintendent?
Madam Chair, I was going to want to make a couple remarks on the item, but it's okay. The question's been called, it's been seconded.
I know, but I wanted to, since the question has been called and
Thank you.
seconded.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. That's why I will embed my comments as part of my A1, which deals with protocols anyway. Thank you.
Yes, I wish you would have indicated to me before, sir, and I would certainly would have called you. Question has been made to Ms. Dr. Navarro, and it's been seconded. Who will be seconding the?
Second.
Ms. Santos,
Madam Chair, point of order. I believe we're calling the question on the amendment, correct? To accept the amendment, and then we vote on the item.
and then we vote on the item as amended.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, thank
I'm
you.
sorry, through the chair. So the motion is to call the question, so if that motion passes, then you have to vote on the amendment. And then from there, then you vote on the item, just for clarification. Thank you.
But I believe we did vote on calling the question.
No, ma'am.
So please, you want a roll call for calling the question or for the?
I want a roll call for every, not only for, well, for on the item as, on the amendment, and then on the item as amended.
That's fine, Dr. Navarro, certainly. So calling the question, all those in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Now, I need an amendment, I need a vote, a motion on the
Second.
amendment. It's been moved and second. Roll call on the vote on the amendment. Dr. Perez? Dr. Navarro?
No.
Dr. Mendoza-Minigo? Yes. I say yes. Yes. Dr. Gallon? Ms. Rojas?
Yes.
Ms. Bardella?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Thank you. Now I need a motion on the item as amended.
Move it. Second.
Is it moved and second? Do you want a roll call on this one too, Dr.
This is the
Navarro?
final item.
Dr. Perez? Dr.
No.
Navarro? No?
Madam Chair, no.
Dr. Mendoza-Minigo?
Yes.
I say yes. Dr. Gallo?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. So it's 8-1. Let me finish, please, no applause, please, thank you. Yes, let me finish, Ms. Navarro. The item has passed 8-1. Dr. Navarro is the one, no.
Seven.
Sorry, ma'am? Yes,
7-1, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry?
We have a board member that's absent.
I'm sorry. I
Sorry?
know. Yes, Ms. Fraga is not here, that's fine. So the item passes. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, just as we conclude the item, I'd like to ensure that our attorney advises us immediately when the Department of Education, the State Board of Education, issues us a probable cause, a letter asking us to go before an emergency meeting by the Department of Education, citing that we have violated the law and that we'll be facing probable cause. I'd like to be informed immediately, Mr. Attorney, upon the school district, whether the superintendent, you get that letter, or attorney, I would like to be informed immediately. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just let me clarify the request. The letter that the district will receive will not be calling us to a meeting. The initial letter will be asking for a response. For the record, thank you.